Who is going to be teaching you? Well, it's me. I've met a lot of you already. We have talked. If you're not over the Zoom, we've exchanged messages and all that good stuff. So I will be your instructor. I'll be your instructor. My name is Francois. Some people have trouble saying that, so you can just call me Francis. That works as well. And I am the founder of this institute. It's known as African Institute of Technology. And we've been training people for the past 2 years, going to 3 right now. And we've done a lot of training and we've helped a lot of people get certified. I do this on the side because I really just love to give back. I love just to help other people break into cybersecurity, because in cyber, which you're going to learn in the next 2 weeks, we need all the help we can get. We need as many people as we can get in this industry. And every time I see someone who trying to break in, I can do anything and everything that I can in my power to help them do exactly just that. And hopefully you will see that throughout this journey for the next 2 weeks. You will hopefully see that, as I would do my very best to kind of help you learn as much as you can. Now, what else? Academic. I have a bachelor's degree in network management. I was one of those lucky kids. After high school, I literally got into technology. I didn't waste no time. I got into technology and started learning this stuff. And then I met a mentor, something that I'm going to emphasize on in this lesson, in this class. You need to surround yourself with mentors, people who can help you get to that next level. So I met a mentor who basically introduced me into cybersecurity, and the rest there is history. So bachelor's degree in network management, master's degree from WGU in cybersecurity and information assurance. That's when I had just started diving into cybersecurity. And now I'm currently doing a PhD in cyber defense from Dakota State University. My first year there, and the experience have been phenomenal. You will learn so much from me as a part of the things that I am doing through research and all the other things that's within that PhD program. It's fantastic. So some people are like, okay, well, we understand the academic, but what about the practical? Do you have some hands-on experience? Well, I've been around for quite some time. My first job was a system administrator with Virginia College, literally. When I graduated over there, they needed someone to maintain their systems, and they hired me as a system administrator. I worked there for 2 years, and I was managing Active Directory, as managing Linux environments. That's where I was interacting with a lot of the operating system. At the time, we were using Windows 7. 8 came out, and they didn't want to push to 8, and then we waited 10 to come out, and then we migrate everything to Windows 10. It was a fantastic experience there, but I was just in charge of managing Active Directory, onboarding students, offboarding students, and everything in between. Then I became a lead cybersecurity instructor for Cybercraft. There I was just teaching, but also creating content, creating courses that other instructors were teaching. I was the lead instructor, so I had 2 other people that were under me that I was managing as a part of our training there as well. With the Trenton Health team, with THT, I was information security officer. I was managing a HIPAA. Some of you might have heard about HIPAA. So I was managing HIPAA. It's a healthcare company, so we had to comply with HIPAA, and I was in charge of that program, but also the security awareness program of the company. I was also in charge of that, creating security awareness throughout the entire organization. And you will learn that in this class as well. Now, right now, I work for ISACA. That's my current position. I work for ISACA as cybersecurity. What's the title? It's a performance-based training engineer. Basically, we create labs. We create hands-on labs in cybersecurity, and I love that. I enjoy that particular role there. I think it's fantastic, which is one of the reasons why I'm still there. Now, one of the things that you are going to learn very quickly is that in cybersecurity, you can get way ahead without the academic credentials, without the bachelor's, the master's. I'm not saying you should not get these. If you're in a position to get these, please do it. Do it. In fact, with schools such as WGU, you can get a bachelor's degree less than a year. I know 2 people that have already helped who have gotten a bachelor's degree in less than a year, literally, because they let you do that. So if you're in a situation where you can do that, please do it, especially for people like us. I will be mentioning more about that as we go on here. But certifications are as equally as important as degrees in this space. In fact, certifications are more important than degrees. Depends on who you ask, because certifications expire. Degrees don't expire. And one thing about cybersecurity or IT in general, things changes so fast that if you don't keep up, you will be left behind. So certifications expire every 3 years. And I'll be mentioning, we're going to talk more about that once we get into the Security Plus. But certifications expire every 3 years, so you have to renew it. And for that reason, I recommend certifications. I've collected as much as I can. And I'm still collecting these because again, there are some jobs where if you don't have the certification, they're not even gonna talk to you. You know, if you don't have like the Security Plus, they're not even gonna open the door for you. So, point being, if you can collect both of these, the degrees and the certifications, you should, without forgetting getting some hands-on experience with some of the things that I'm gonna be mentioning here. So, the certification that you care about the most is probably Security Plus, since that's the one I'm going to be preparing you for. But like I mentioned, I've had quite a few of them. Some of them, majority of these are way better than Security Plus. But this is to tell you that these classes should not be the end for you. This should be the beginning of you going on and take this to the next level. And the last thing I will mention, and then it's going to be enough about me because this class is not about me, it's about you. The last thing I will mention is this, me telling you all this is that in cybersecurity, you have to keep learning. If there's one thing that you will need to get out of my class, is exactly just that. And then I'm not saying keep learning in a way you have to sit in the classroom like this, or you have to go back to college, anything like that. No, you keeping up with technology. Right, something like ChatGPT just came out. Well, learn about it. Right, try to use it. Like being curious and kind of watching educational related content. And that's the kind of learning that I'm talking about. That's gonna keep you fresh. That's gonna keep you on top of your game. And those are the kind of people we need in cybersecurity. Okay, guys, let's get into the content of lesson number 1. And lesson 1 is very interesting because I am going to go back and give you the overview of cybersecurity, the things that you need to focus on, or the things that you need to be aware of as you're coming into this industry of cybersecurity. Because some people get into this and they really don't understand all the pieces and how we really go in and protect the organization. So I'm going to take a step back and kind of give you the introduction, and not only just my opinions and the things, you know, within my brand, but I will also share some of the resources. These are the top-notch resources of, you know, cybersecurity industry, respected resources that we use, so we can kind of back up the claim of what I will be sharing with you in the lesson 1. So here's the things that we're going to talk about in lesson 1. First thing I'm going to do is the roles and responsibilities. Before we talk about roles, we'll talk about the cybersecurity framework. The cybersecurity framework, it's going to bring all the pieces together, everything that I'm talking about. Again, if you're a company or a person and you're trying to get into cybersecurity, that's exactly where you begin. NIST, which is funded by the US government, was very kind enough to give us this thing known as a cybersecurity framework. Now we have a version 2 of this framework. So I'm going to teach you the latest, the second version, because they added governance They added a governance to version 2. And I want to make sure you understand that, because some of you mentioned about going into the GRC, the governance and risk and compliance. And the NIST is coming back, is telling us, hey, look, hey, governance is actually important. Right? Having policies and having people can make decisions, it's actually important. So this is our framework. We're going to start there and then dive into the key concepts. After literally talking about everything you need to know about the cybersecurity industry, we'll talk about the key concepts of the cyber. What is the CIA? And the confidentiality, integrity, availability. I will go back to those things. And I send some of you, if you've watched some of the YouTube videos and you've done a lot of researches, you understand some of that stuff already. But I will take a different angle on that. And when I say a different angle, I'm talking about if you were to put that stuff into a real world, right? Which one should you care about the most? If your industry is in finance, out of a CIA, which one should that industry focuses on? So that way, you can start putting the pieces together and then be able to, take that knowledge and apply that once you go back to work, obviously. We will talk about different frameworks. So I will come back to things like PCI DSS, GDPR, ISO, right? Once we get there, it's going to be a lot of a memorization, really, to be quite honest. Unless you enjoy GRC, and unless you enjoy, you want to get into the governance side of things, a bunch of people find that particular section a little bit boring. And that really goes back into this one as well, right? The ISO, the cloud framework, we'll talk about all that there. Then we'll dive into security controls. What can we put in place to protect the organization? That's going to be in this lesson. We'll talk about things like technical controls, managerial controls, physical controls. Right? These are some of the things that you, the cybersecurity personnel guy or girl, you can go in and then apply that stuff and then protect the organization that way. We're not going to stop there. We will also talk about functional controls. These are like the subset of these security controls, like the subset of the big picture controls. Then there we're going to talk about things like compensating control, things like deterrent control, if you want to deter someone, right? And few other controls that company can put in place. It's going to be in that section. Benchmarks and security configuration are really important. The exam doesn't focus on them because every company have their own guides, their own security guides. For example, if you want to secure Windows 10, Microsoft have a benchmark for Windows 10, right? This section, it's me going back in and tell you basically, look, if you're working in cybersecurity, you don't know where to begin, and they're asking you to secure this particular tool, this is where you will go to get the resources you need. Right? And last but not least, we'll talk about regulations. So regulations, we'll go back to that framework a little bit, but here it's where we go ahead and talk about laws, not just a best practice, not just a benchmark, because when it comes to security guides and best practice and benchmarks, you don't have to do that stuff. But a law, regulation, legislation, you have to. Things like HIPAA, you absolutely have to do them. Things like GDPR, you absolutely have to do them. I will share some resources where Google didn't do what they're supposed to do, and they got fined from GDPR. Right? And things along those lines. Then we're going to finish this by looking at the quiz as well as the lab activities. There's no lab on lesson 1 and lesson 2. Labs are going to start on lesson 3, unless you want to get ahead of me, which I highly encourage you. So here's the thing before we dive in. All right, real world stuff. Here's the things that I need you to keep in mind before we dig a little bit deeper into this content. There are 4 questions. I need you to write it down, and I need you to keep these back in your mind as we go ahead and dig a little bit deeper into the rest of this course, not just lesson 1. So question number 1 is this. you need to ask yourself, what is critical? What is critical to your organization? That's the first question you need to ask. What is critical to your organization? Because if the company have 1,000 employees and they have 2,000 machines, you're not going to protect all that stuff, right? You're going to have to focus on the things that matter to your organization. The only way you do that is by asking that question of, okay, what is critical to my organization? Then focus your security to those things that are critical. Your question might be, okay, well, how would I know what's critical? Well, you need to understand how the company makes money. What are some of those things that if they're not there, the company is going to shut down? Start there. For example, let's look at the company Amazon.com. Let me ask you this. What do you think is critical to Amazon.com?
Their web server.
Their web server, right? Their website. The Amazon.com, that's more important than anything else. They're not like Walmart. They don't have a physical store where people can walk in. If that website goes down, they're doomed, right? They're done. So for them, or if you work for Amazon.com, if you ask that question, what's critical to us? Well, you will start with the web, with the server, with that website, the www.amazon.com. And then you start looking at the devices that keep that website up. And then start focusing your security on those things. So that's question number one. What's critical to your environment? And that goes to the data. Like, what is the critical data that's within your environment? The second question you need to ask is, where is it located? That critical information, where is it located? Is it in the cloud? Is it in some kind of a server somewhere? Is it in like somebody's computer? You need to understand where that data is located, that critical data, that critical function, that critical system. You need to understand where that critical system is located. It's question number two. Question number three is, who has access to that critical data? Right? Who has access to it? See, one of the biggest issues, guys, we have in cybersecurity is this. Some people just have too much access, right? And that comes down to us, system administrator. I apologize, Eric. System admin, they give access to people and they don't take that access away, right? You find one person, they have access to the server, to the email, to all these other things. And that's a very big issue. And let me share this with you. There's a company we both know and love. It's known as Marriott Hotel. Marriott Hotel got attacked in 2020. They got hacked. And when you read over the story, it's one thing that does not add up about the story. And T, I'm going to be dropping these in the Zoom chat, and we can be dropping those in the Discord. I'll just drop them in Discord as well. All right, so you look at this story, such as this Marriott Hotel. If you never sleep in one of the Marriott Hotel, then I don't know, maybe you live outside of the US, but they're huge. Like, they always buy other small hotels. Even these other hotels you might have used, they're probably owned by Marriott Hotel. Anyway, they got attacked in 2020. This story came out, and the story says that hackers got access to two employees. They got credentials of two Marriott employees. And then using those two employees, the same hackers were able to steal 5.2 million guest accounts. And the question comes down to, okay, do these two people, just these two employees of Marriott Hotel, did they really needed access to that 5.2 million guest records? And the answer is no. Right? There's no way that we're serving all these many people. So it comes down to that question of who has access to this critical data, right? Who has access to this data? Because some people tend to just have too much access. So that's question number 3. Question number 4 that you need to ask, and this is the last one, guys, then we're going to dive into the content. Question number 4 is, who should have access to that critical data? Like, who has access to it, and who should have access to it? We need to constantly go in changing who has access to what. If we fire someone, we need to remove them. If they get a promotion, they move to a different department, we need to remove their access, because hackers love to use those additional access that we have forgotten about. So those are the 4 questions. I want you to start asking those. I want you to keep those in mind as we go on. To recap, what is critical to your environment? Where is it located? Who has access to it? And then who should have access to it? Let's dive right in. Before we dig any deeper, I have a pop quiz. And the way we do about this pop quiz, one of you will read, the rest of you will respond, and then we will look at the answers, then we'll move on. So who want to volunteer reading?
I'm going to read.
Sure.
It says, which of the following is assured when a user signs an email using a private key?
Thank you. Can you put in the chat? We got Joseph Topoli here says A.
Yeah. A.
You got another A coming in. Okay. Abdul says A. Hey, guys, when you're responding, please respond to all, because I see your messages coming in and they're just coming to me. So respond to all so that everybody sees it. Make sure it doesn't say my name over there. Eric said A. Osman says B, confidentiality, non-repudiation. So you got people saying B, Eric saying A. Got a few votes for A. Guys, this is a pop quiz. You don't have to get it right. That's the whole purpose of a pop quiz. I'm trying to assess your readiness here, so you can't get this one wrong. Then you'll say D, authentication. And Sam says, yeah, I just support Daniel. That's what I'm going to do. All right. Fantastic. Let's check it out. Let's see what's going on. Am I missing anybody? Who did not respond? I think I got everybody. Fantastic. And the answer is A. You're like, okay, whoa, hold on a minute. Explain yourself. All right. Why is A? And here's the reason why it's A. And I noticed I haven't taught you this yet, and this is being mean and having this at the beginning. A lot of this is going to be on lesson 5 and 6 about private key and stuff like it's going to be in 5 and 6, but I'd like to put it here because this is the actual security. So they're talking about you want to go in and make sure that a user have signed the email using their private key, right? Which of the following assured? We have some assurance that when a user signs an email using a private key. Makes sense. It's not really a complicated question. If you knew what non-repudiation was, then this is a really easy pick. Non-repudiation is when someone cannot deny taking action. They cannot repudiate doing something. In other words, when you send an email to someone and you have a digitally signed that email with your private key, that private key belongs to you. Belongs to you, doesn't belong to anybody else. So when you sign the email, send it to whoever you want to send it to. And you have signed that email with your private key, then we're accomplishing non-repudiation. The reason is because once that email gets to that person, you cannot deny. We have the insurance. You cannot deny I didn't send that email because we have your fingerprint all over it. We have your private key on that email. In the physical world, the way we accomplish non-repudiation is when you sign a check. You want to deposit that into the bank. So once you sign a check on the back of it, and then you go ahead and you deposit the check, you can't really, a few hours later go to the bank and you're like, hey, you know what? I didn't actually deposit that check. That wasn't me. They're gonna look at the back of the check and look at your signature and be like, hey, this is you, this is your signature. Right? Same thing. You cannot repudiate, meaning you cannot deny taking that action. You cannot deny sending that email. You cannot deny signing that check. The rest of these, we're going to talk about them, including non-repudiation, really. We're going to talk about them in this lesson right now. Confidentiality, availability, and there's the integrity between them. But authentication is really, we're going to talk about all that in this lesson or the upcoming lessons as well. Let's keep going. So first part, we're going to go ahead and talk about the understanding of everything that comes within cybersecurity. And the way of us understanding that stuff is through NIST. NIST is an entity that's funded by the US government. And a lot of what we do in cybersecurity is really, really influenced by NIST. Because NIST write papers. They write what they normally call special publication, SPs. So they have a bunch of special publications. And these are just documents, really, like piece of papers that goes in and talk about risk management, for example, like, okay, risk management. And these are the things you need to do for risk management. NIST give us that. We say, we got it. Thank you, Mr. NIST. They might have some on a disaster recovery. They might have some on, they have a bunch of different resources. So one of the things that they produced early on was this framework that's known as a cybersecurity framework. And we, for years, like 10 plus years, we had version 1. Recently, this is not even out yet. They have a draft out, but it's coming. Recently, they came out with the version 2. Now, with the version 2, they put a lot of emphasis on governance. What is governance? Governance is policies. You're like, okay, well, it's policies. Policies are rules that govern the business. These are rules that the business must follow, the business must obey. So one of the things that we have been missing in cybersecurity for years is this governance. Because these business people, they used to think cybersecurity is a technical problem that, oh, let these techie guys deal with it. That is changing because the government, specifically in the US, every time I say the government, I'm talking about the US government, right? The government is holding a bunch of these companies accountable now. And I'll be sharing what you recently happened with the SolarWinds, where they get attacked and the government came in and now they're charging SolarWinds. They're taking their CISO. Their CISO is literally going to jail as we speak. So it's kind of a big deal now. So now they cannot really turn it a blind eye and be like, okay, well, if we get attacked, it's the issue of the technical guys over there. No. It's a problem of the leadership of the organization. And that's really what governance try to accomplish. But I got ahead of myself. Here's what you need to understand when it comes to this framework. This framework was designed to give organizations a starting point. If they don't know where to begin, this is where they need to start. And what the framework said was, if you're going to be securing anything, here's the things that you need to be aware of. First of all, you need to identify. Identification. You need to identify the things you have in your environment. That's step 1. Identification. You need to know those critical hardware, those critical software that your company depends on, those critical people that if they're not there, your company's in trouble. You need to identify what's critical to your environment. It goes back to that first question that I brought up that you need to keep in mind. Identification. Here is the hard truth. A bunch of people in cybersecurity, they tend to skip the identification side of things. They just want to get into the protection. They just want to start securing things. It's like, hey, look, I'm here just to secure things. That's the mindset we have. Security, 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 security. But you are now going to secure the things you don't know that they exist. I think that makes sense, right? So you need to identify what you have. And this is really not from me. Some people are like, whoa, hold on a minute. What are you trying to say? What I'm saying is, this is not from me. There's research that backs this up. There's an organization, which we will talk about this towards the end of this lesson. It's known as a NIST, not NIST. See how NIST have stuck in my mind. CIS controls, top 18. They used to call this top 20. And somehow they said they were doing a little bit too much of these. So now they have the top 18. And with these controls are very important, very critical. The company known as SANS started doing these like 20 plus years ago. And they told organization that, hey, look, if you do these 18 things, you will win. Like you will be way better off than 90% of other organizations if you do these 18 things. And in fact, that's one of those things that I will say to you is that as you're going in and trying to secure your environment, do the security of these 18 controls. Make sure you're checking the boxes of these 18 things. And here's control number 1 and control number 2. Inventory. Literally, inventory of your what? Your hardware, and inventory of your software. You are not going to secure the things you don't know they exist. You have to know your hardware. You have to know your environment. That's from NIST. That's from CIS, right? Top 18. Here's another gentleman who talked about this. And this guy, he's the top dog. Like I'm talking about, he's the leader of the NSA. One of the things that he talked about in this conversation, he said, when they go to hack, the first thing they do penetration testing. If you don't know penetration testing, I'll be teaching you that in a minute. The first thing they do is learn that environment better than the people who are actually securing that environment, better than the people who actually created the product that's securing those environments, right? In other words, that tells you the best of the best when it comes to hacking. They also learn the environment. They also know the hardware. They also know the software. So I'm just trying to drive that point home of NIST that says identify the critical things you have in your environment. You got to identify those critical things. You are never going to secure the things you don't know they exist. Therefore, start there. Second, once you've identified what's critical, you got to protect it. I think that makes sense. All right, protection. And this is where a lot of us gets a little bit excited. Like, oh, when I get my hands on the shiny tools, right? So here we put in things like firewalls. How many people here have heard about firewalls? Can you give me those thumbs up, or can you give me those thumbs up in the Zoom? Some of you have. Some of you are like, no, we have not. I have a section, I have a lesson that's coming up where we will talk about firewalls, probably early next week. Firewalls, it's one of the very first hardware that we think about when we start talking about security. It's very mean hardware. If you deploy a firewall, it's going to stop everybody to come in, unless you go back in there and just open up a little bit and be like, hey, Mr. Firewall, take it easy, right? Let's allow this guy to come in. Let's allow this port. Let's allow this protocol. Let's allow these IP addresses. So that's firewall. protection. Here, this is where we're going to put in things like access control list, ACL. We can configure that on the router. We can configure that on the firewall. This is where we configure things like firewall rules. This is where we apply things like MAC address filtering, like MAC filtering. Basically, this is where we deploy the software or the hardware that's going to protect the organization. This is where the incident response team comes in, the protection. This is where the forensic people comes in as a part of the protection and as part of the response as well. So that's the protection. But here's the hard truth, guys, and I have some data to back it up. You are now going to protect everything 100%. I was on one conversation. It was a talk at one of these conferences. And there was this guy who was giving out a talk. And then he said, we are super secure. For the past 3 years, we have never been hacked. And then the people were cheering. They're like, yay, you guys are so amazing. You're doing all the right things and you're protecting the environment the way you're supposed to protect the environment, right? And then there's another speaker that came on stage and said, in the past 3 years, we have responded to these many attacks and we have prevented these many attacks. And then we have prevented this much of damages, to take place. Then the people took the second speaker. That was best in my opinion. People took the second speaker as the guy who's a failure, right? They almost boo him out of the stage. Like, hey, what are you talking about? Get off that stage, right? Why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this because you are now going to protect your environment 100%. This speaker who went on and say, hey, we are so secure that the past 3 years we have never been attacked, and that we're 100% sure we have never been attacked. That speaker should have booted off of the stage. Because one of the things that I'm going to teach you here is what we normally call 0 days. Right? There are known unknowns, right? Hackers might be in your environment and you have no idea. And the research shows that sometimes they're in your environment for weeks, for months, and then we have no clue. So when you go on the stage and be like, hey, I'm protected, I'm 100% sure, you are lying. Bad guys will get in. So I want to make sure you make peace with that. Yes, we want to protect, and that's the mindset of security people. Protect, 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 but bad things will get in. And there's this very classic saying from a bunch of the SANS instructors where they said that prevention is ideal, but detection is a must. You're not going to protect everything 100%, but we want to make sure we detect anything that manages to get in. Detection is a must. And the reason why detection is a must, let me ask you this. How many days do you think the bad guys stays in an environment before they get detected? How many days, weeks, months? Just give me your best guess.
Months, it can be years from what I understand.
Could be years. I like that. You've lost hope. Oh, Eric. It's getting better, I tell you that. Anybody else? How many days do you think the bad guys will stay in companies' networks before they get detected? Can you put that in the chat too? It could take years of monitoring. Yeah. Well, why do we do that? Let's take a look at the research. Let's see what the research says. There's another research here from, and this link is for this NIST that we're talking about. I'm gonna drop that in the chat for you. All right, go. There's a research from a Mandiant. Mandiant is one of those very, very respected company. Google recently bought them, literally like last year. Google snatched them, paid billions of dollars for these guys. I always came in like, I need to start a cybersecurity company. But Mandiant is one of those companies that have been doing this for years. And one of the research that they do every year, it's known as M-Trends reports. And this is it here. I highly recommend people read over Mandiant report. They do this once a year. It's not very long. So read over Mandiant report, but also read over Verizon report. I'm going to be sharing this. I'm going to drop this in the chat too. Verizon report. I'm going to be talking about a few things here as well. But let's start with Mandiant. Mandiant goes in and talk about the dwell time. Dwell time is how long, right? How long the bad guys are in your environment before we can detect them. And let me get down here. And we're almost there. There we go, here. Dwell time, right? So how long are they in environment before we can detect them? Well, in 2021, it was 21 days. In 2022, it got better. It's up to 16 days. So a little bit of in 2 weeks. Few years ago, let me go back here. Few years ago, this was years. Like I'm talking about like 2 or 3 years. They're in your environment and you have no idea that they were there. And here is the issue with this. And this is why I believe what Eric said. Here's the issue with this dwell time of 16 days. 24% of all the attacks, 24% of all the attacks is ransomware attacks. What is the nature of a ransomware attacks? What happens with when we have a ransomware attack?
Encrypt your data and pay us to get it back. Pay us to give you the key to decrypt it.
Exactly. So, Eric, would you say we detect those bad guys, or we know we have been attacked because the message popped up and asking us to pay them some money?
If it gets to the point of ransomware, then it's the second. It's where you've got that message saying that you've been encrypted and you need to pay us.
Exactly. Exactly. So that number, it's a little bit misleading. And part of the reason why it's a little bit misleading is because often, since 24% of the attacks is all ransom, basically we don't detect them as soon as we can, which is the point I'm trying to drive home. They tell us, look, we've been here for these many days or for these months or years. We have been encrypted all your hard drive, meaning we've taken your computers hostages. Now pay us some money, or else we're going to delete a bunch of stuff. And if I can find the research, it should be at the top here. Social engineering is still the big one. 74% of all the attacks starts with the human element, meaning people getting tricked into clicking on things. Right? I will drive this point home once we get there. But the ransomware here, ransomware continues to be the big factor. 24% of all the attacks are ransom. Ransom, guys, is when they encrypt your hard drive. Let me show you this WannaCry ransom. This happened in 2017 and it cost company billions of dollars. I'm talking about over $10 billion to recover from this. This was the message that they got on their screens. Imagine waking up one day and you go to work and they say, oops, your files have been encrypted. Now, pay us some money. Using this Bitcoin link, there's some kind of a Bitcoin. That's why government don't like Bitcoin, the internet money, the untraceable money. Pay us on this link, and then it will give you the key to unlock your computer. And then here's the classic one. They're gonna give you a little timer here, where they said if you don't pay, everything is gonna be destroyed within these many. The countdown timer gets to 0. Anyway, so this is like an example of a ransom. I will be coming back to WannaCry because WannaCry was huge, was everywhere. Some people died because it literally went into hospitals and encrypting things in hospitals. You know, imagine if a doctor is in the middle of performing a surgery and this thing pops up out of nowhere. So it's a big deal, which is why we need you in cybersecurity. Anyway, I said all this stuff to try to drive the point home of detection is ideal. We need to detect people as soon as we can. We need to detect bad things as soon as we can. And the way we do that in cybersecurity is through a few things. We have a product. One of them is known as IDS. This is an intrusion detection system. We have another one known as a CIEM. I'll be teaching you all these things. This is the security information and event management. I'll teach you this. And then we have a few other things like security monitoring and all that good stuff. We can use all these products to be able to detect bad things as soon as they happen. The bad guys staying in our environment for 2 weeks. Can you imagine a bad guy in your house for 2 weeks, what they can do? Like they're right there just doing whatever they want to do, right? They will steal anything, right? So the 2 weeks is still too long. We want to be able to detect these bad guys as soon as we can. Once we detect them, we respond. That's step 3. Respond. That's where we go ahead. We shut down the computer that's under attack. Maybe we unplug it from the power, literally. Forensic people are not going to like you because forensic people, they need evidence from the RAM, from all these other locations. But depends on what just happened. We might just unplug the computer from the power. And response might include kicking in the incident response, calling in the cavalry, if you will, right? The people who are going to go head to toe with these hackers and try to figure out what exactly happened. You might involve the forensic people to give us the artifacts of analyzing the computer that's under attack, look at the logs, look at the hard drive, look at the system entirely and tell us exactly what took place as a part of the response. Next, it's going to be recover. If the bad guys manage to do any damages, we need to recover from that damage. This is where if we have backups, everything that I'm talking about right now, guys, we will come back to it. We have chapters and chapters and chapters. This is just a summary of this whole cybersecurity thing and a little bit of a security plus. But recover, it's where if we have a backups, we can just restore things from the backups. If we have like images, this is not JPEG. This is like an operating system image. Like an operating system image. If you've done help desk, you know what I'm talking about. This is where they have like a system that's ready to go. So we get attacked, we can just say, hey, let's just restore everything from this image when everything was working okay, right? So that's another way of recovering it. And it couldn't be the restoring things, literally restoring things from different locations and the like. Here's the glue that put all these together and keep all this going: governance. Governance is them going in and providing the overview, the guidance that's needed. Give us the funding, give us the direction of where we need to take this security for that organization. So this is NIST. This is the cybersecurity framework. I did share the document with you. You don't have to read the document. I usually set it out over there for the people, for my overachievers who just want to go in there and be like, you know what, I want to dig a little bit deeper into this. This is the document. This is the version 2 draft. Can take a look at it where they talk about governance. We're going in, we're establishing the risk management. We're going in, we're developing policies, right? The standards, the expectations, or from the expectations to the cybersecurity program that we've established at the company. And the reason why this is becoming heavy, like I mentioned earlier, is that if companies are not doing what they're supposed to do, the leader within the company are being held accountable, right? They're trying to do the same thing they did for finance. If you are a chief financial officer, if you make any mistake in your auditing, in your finances, they can hold you accountable. You can go to jail. Same thing for cybersecurity. That's what they're trying to establish. Okay, Few more things. These are the terminologies, the terminology that you need to be aware of. Now that you understand what this whole cybersecurity is all about, you got to, detect stuff. You got to know what you're securing from. You got to secure it. You got to do all that stuff. Let's take a step back a little bit and talk about some terminologies. You need to understand these. You need to understand them cold, because when you're talking to cybersecurity professionals, they expect you to know these terminologies. Yeah, they expect you to know what they are. Besides, this is going to be all over that exam. The other thing is the exam doesn't really say, oh, domain 1, CIA, domain 2, CIA. It doesn't do that. These are going to be all over that exam. Besides, again, the entire cybersecurity industry, really, it's designed around these three things. These are CIA. All right, what is it? The CIA. This is the confidentiality, integrity, availability. I've had students in the past that were like, I don't know, man. Is that the Central Intelligence Agency? I'm like, no, it's not. Right? This is the confidentiality, integrity, availability. Right? And what is it? Why should you care? Well, confidentiality is keeping secret. Keeping the data that are supposed to be kept secret. Making sure that only the people that are authorized to access the confidential data are the ones that are accessing that data. All right, keeping confidential stuff confidential. I think it's in the name. It makes sense. Most people understand it. Besides, confidentiality is the one that is tied close to security, cybersecurity. Whenever people think about cybersecurity, they start thinking of confidentiality, and because again, it makes sense, because it's we're trying to secure things. We're trying to keep things to just the people who are authorized to be accessing those things. What we're trying to prevent is intentional or unintentional disclosure of that which is confidential. Right? If you are authorized to access it, that's okay. And there is no breach of confidentiality. But if you are not authorized to access it and then you're accessing it, then you have a breach. That's the breach of the confidentiality, right? Now, how do we accomplish confidentiality in a real world? How do we do it? Well, one, we do it through encryption. How many people you have heard about encryption? Yeah. What is encryption? Somebody explain it to us.
The easiest thing I can think of is taking data, taking words and numbers and making them unreadable, putting them in a script that kind of makes it unreadable.
Love it, right? Well, we're taking something that a human can read and understand, we're scrambling it, right? We're making it unreadable, according to Eric. Thank you, Eric. Right. So that's encryption. We're taking some things that you can understand it, and then we're scrambling it. We're making it unreadable. But here's the thing. Once we scramble that data, we're going to give you a key. Right? That's the thing about encryption. When you encrypt something, you will be given a key. Now, the person who is authorized to access that which is encrypted will have the key to decrypt it, to open it back up. So encryption provides confidentiality, because unless you have that key, you won't be able to access the data, no matter what you do. Right? No matter what you do, no matter what you try, you won't be able to access the data unless you are authorized to access the data. And that authorization comes from that particular key. We are going to be talking about this in chapter 5 in more depth. But let me give you a little walk down here. There is this website known as ROT13. And ROT13, it's one way of doing what we're talking about right now. If I can stop doing this and stop not trying to print stuff. There we go. All right, here. So this is me trying to encrypt things. So what I can do, I can say, hey, let me just say ROT1. ROT1 is that key. That's the secret. That's the key. So right now I can say A, B, C, D, F, G. This right here is the unencrypted message. This right here. This is the unencrypted messages. You can look at it, you can read it, you can understand it. Once I encrypt it, it becomes encrypted. This is the encrypted message. I'm using ROT1, that's the secret. Basically, I'm just substituting one. I will talk about this in lesson 10. But I just want to introduce this right here, right now, because once we lesson 10, lesson 5 and 6. So I can say hello world. This is hello world, unencrypted. You can look at it and understand it. If I were to send this to you right now, you have no idea what this means. But this is the same hello world. For you to be able to decrypt this, you will need to know the secret. You need to know the key. So if you know that I substituted one, which is exactly what I just did. So instead of saying H, I said the other letter that follow after H, I. Instead of saying E, I said F. Instead of saying L, I said M. All right, so it's ROT1. We're just doing substitution of the letters from A to Z. That's what this algorithm does. We're going to talk about this. Substitution is one of those cryptographic concepts that I will dig deeper into it. Just want to show you how encryption works. So once you've done this, you are doing a confidentiality. Because unless someone knows that you've done ROT1, like this key, the secret, that they can bring this back to life by reverse what you did, they won't be able to access it. Make sense? Fantastic. Let's go. So the next, there's one more. This is physical security. That's another way of accomplishing confidentiality through physical security. I always tell people, if somebody can walk up, grab the server, have a physical access to the server, then you're in big trouble. So physical security is important to accomplish confidentiality. Those doors, those locks, all those things accomplish confidentiality. Because once we lock the door, unless you have the key, you won't be able to get in. If we have a fence, you're not able to get in unless you can. It depends on the kind of fence that we're talking about. This is all going to be in 21, lesson 21. That's where we're going to come back to all the physical security stuff. The next one we have here, it's integrity, right? Out of the CIA, integrity. What is it? Integrity is making sure the data has not been changed, has not been altered. Basically, it's keeping things original. It's like if I were to send you an email right now, how do you know if that email is original? It's like, how do you know that nobody, when the email was coming from me to you, nobody captured that email, add some things to it, and then ship that email to you? Integrity helps us with that. So integrity is making sure things are original. And two ways of us accomplishing integrity is through what we normally call hashing algorithms. We're going to come back to this in lesson 5. Hashing algorithms. And then we have two. There's hundreds of them. These are the two that you need to remember for this exam. One is MD5, Message Digest 5. And another one is SHA. You know, there's different variation of SHA. There's SHA-1, SHA-256, there's SHA-512. There's a different variation of SHA. But there's SHA and there's MD5. These are the two algorithms that we use whenever we're trying to accomplish integrity. What is hashing? Hashing, it's a one-way numbers, basically, numbers or letters. And then we use these numbers to check to see if something is original. And that's when we use, those numbers. Your quick question might be, okay, well, do you have an example of that? Let me bring up my Kali Popo here quickly. But imagine if you're trying to go to download a software. Just head online and you try to download something. How do you know the software that you're getting has not been changed? How do you know the attacker didn't add a virus to that software and then put it where you just downloaded it from? Integrity can help us accomplish that. Integrity is making sure things are original, have not been changed. Then using hashing algorithms, we can see the integrity of something. And the reason here is that when you hash something, every time there is a little change, the whole thing change. So then let me go to MD5. I'll show mine. Just grab one of these. It's not a good example. So it's not that good of an example. Let's see this one. All right, this is a perfect example. All right, so imagine I'm trying to hash, I'm using MD5 here. I'm trying to hash a hello world. Hello world. This is what I'm trying to send it to you. Hello world. Once this gets to you, the question is, okay, how do you know this is original? How do you know nobody tampered with this? If I include a hash, this is this is MD5 hash, and this is just a bunch of numbers and a bunch of letters. It's one-way string. See, with encryption, you can reverse that. You can decrypt encryption. With the hash, you cannot. Just one way. It's only used to check integrity. So once I send you hello world, the way you know this is original is by looking at this right here. Because the thing is this, if somebody add anything to the original message, this is going to completely change. So if they grab my message and then add a dot, I don't know if you just seen it, everything changed, right? Even if they add anything to it, the entire thing changes. So if you receive that message and then it looks different, the hash is different, you should not trust that message. You should not trust that software because that software have lost its integrity. Meaning there could be a viruses that have been added. There could be some other things that have been added. To demonstrate this in a real world, and guys, look, most people really don't do this in a real world. We'll just download the things and start using them. But for the sake of this exam, let me show this to you. Sign in, Francois. Come on. There we go. This is my Kali Purple, Kali Linux. I am running a computer inside of my computer. It's called virtualization. I have a chapter coming up where I'm going to teach you this stuff. Okay, so what I want to show you is imagine you go to Google and you try to download the Kali Linux, for example. Right? Go to Kali Linux. Say you're trying to get one of the Kali software. Go to Kali Linux. I click on downloads. And you can do this for any software, really. I go to virtual machines. And let's say that I want to grab one of these one for VirtualBox. The reason I brought you is because they left the hash here for us to verify the integrity. Majority of the security tools, they're going to leave a hash for you to verify the integrity. So right here, after I click on the download, I can just click on the download. I think I downloaded this already. It should be in my downloads folder. Let's open this up. Yeah, right there. I have it. So it's going to be a lot easier for me to show it to you. So if I were to click on this right here and download it, which I already did, the question is, how do I know the thing I just downloaded, it's original? And the answer is, the only way for me to know is by running a hash against that thing that I just downloaded. So if I bring up the terminal right now, I will give you a little introduction to Linux, guys. Not right now, but if I were to cd into downloads, cd means change directory. If I were to change directory into downloads, meaning I am going into this download location. If I were to ls means list, show me what's inside of that location. I'm able to see that the Kali is there. So if I am I am concerned. Well, what am I doing? I am concerned that I want to know the integrity of this file. I want to know if this file is original. While Kali did, they put this SHA-256 here, the hashing algorithm that we're talking about. So after downloading this, I can run this against the thing I just downloaded. If it produced the same thing as you're looking at here, then it's original. Nobody have tampered with it. Nobody have changed anything. That's the whole point of me showing you this. So let me just make sure that's running. So I can say SHA-256. I'm sure I've done this in the past. So SHA-256 sum, which is the tool. I pointed that to the Kali, the thing that I downloaded. And I hit enter. This might take a minute. So, but usually once comes back, it's supposed to have this exactly thing, a word by a word. If anything change, I should not trust this download. I should not trust this software. It has been tampered with. Somebody may have added a virus. Something's not right about this download. This is very important when you're accessing security tools, because hackers understand that we, the security people, have too much access. So sometimes they hack us. Literally, they hack us because they know once they get our account, they have access to other things as well.
In the question for you, in the real world, are you actually matching it letter for letter, number for number? Or are you just looking at maybe like the last 6 or something like that to give you an idea if it's a match?
Yeah, last 4, last 6.
All right, cool.
Yeah, you can glance at the whole thing. In fact, in the real world, we have software that matches these for you, give you the go ahead and it's not right, it's right. Right. And the people who does this are, only the people that are paranoid about security. I'll tell you that. I don't know, last time I downloaded a software and I had to run a hash to see if this thing is original. I don't know last time I did that. So again, that's me, bad habit. All right, so here this thing came back. Let's verify this. There you go. All right, can you see the 4EE651? And it looks like they changed it. And it will make sense because the version I have, it's old. I downloaded this a while back. But if I were to download the same one that they have on it right now, it would have to match the hash. Now that it does not match, I should not be trusting what I have, right? Any questions for me?
The only other question I have, because I've tried this and I had some issues bringing up the hash of the download itself. Can you do it through like the Windows command prompt, just like you can through the Windows, the Linux terminal?
Yeah, but so you will have to have the software installed. So the SHA-256, you have to have the binary installed first.
Okay.
Linux comes with all that stuff installed. That's why I was able to do it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But for Windows, just Google SHA-256 sum for Google CLAI or command line interface.
I gotcha. Okay.
All right, last one. And guys, I'm not gonna finish this. Listen, it's very classic of me many times when teaching these, and we dig a little bit deeper. I don't want to rush. For the first day and second day, I don't want to rush. After we have set the stage, then we pick up a little bit quickly. But for now, I want to make sure you understand all this first. The next one is availability. Availability are the things available when you need them? Are they available when you need them? This right here, there we go. So availability, it kind of makes sense. It's in the name. Ensure that the availability of data systems and applications for those that need to use it. Right? That does not mean the speed. If it takes about 10 minutes to load up, that means it's still available. So availability is there. Availability, is it there when we need it? These right here are the cornerstone. cornerstone of cybersecurity. They are everywhere. The way we accomplish availability in cybersecurity is through redundancy. Redundancy is using more than one thing, using two of something. For example, me and the TL, we have a redundancy. If for some reason I can't make it, he will come in and teach the class. So we have a redundancy there. Okay. So the way we accomplish that in cybersecurity is through load balancers. This is a product, a device that distributed the load between servers. I'll be talking about this. We have a chapter that's coming up that talks about that. We have a RAID. These are disk redundancies. This is like once you have a computer, maybe you might have multiple disks, multiple hard drive. Then you can have a redundancy between them, meaning if one hard drive dies, the other one is okay. It's operational, redundant availability. Then UPS. And people are like, is that the where we go to send stuff, the UPS store? No, this is different. This is the uninterruptible power supply. If you're a doctor, this is important. Right, we got to have a UPSs. In fact, even in cybersecurity, we must have a power redundancies. This is like a power supply, like an uninterruptible power supply, where even if the primary power shuts down, our critical servers, our critical routers are not going to shut down because they're connected to a UPS. Here's the things I need you to understand from a real world, and that is, you need to understand which one your organization care more than another when it comes to these three. Let me ask you this. If you work for a government agency, which one do you think they care about? Confidentiality, integrity, or availability?
I would say confidentiality.
Absolutely. So government is all about top secret. It's all about national security. So for them, sometimes it's okay if the computer gets destroyed. It's okay if there's not availability. For them, they really don't care much about availability. It's okay if the hard drive gets damaged, then falling in the wrong hands. So they will prioritize confidentiality over anything else. Let me ask you this. What about Amazon.com? Which one do you think they prioritize between these three?
Availability. They want that money.
That money.
Yeah.
They need the raw cash.
Exactly. So the website have to be available 24/7. So they will do everything they can to keep that website up. Let me ask you this. What about financial institutions? Your bank, Wells Fargo. What do you think they care about the most?
That's going to be integrity. They got to make sure if you only got $5 in the bank, you can't make it where you got 10,000 in the bank.
That's it.
The data has to be right.
That's it. Right. And people don't play with their money. Once they start, you thought you had $30 and the next year check is 20, you're gonna kill everybody at the bank. So availability to them is very important. Integrity, making sure things are not changed. So I'm giving these examples to understand that even these, we have to prioritize them. That does not mean you don't do the other stuff. It does not mean the government doesn't do integrity or availability. Because for something to be a truly cybersecurity thing, it has to have both of these three. For something to truly be secure, it must have these three things. So these are going to be everywhere on that exam. If you have any question, ask now. Otherwise, I'm going to move on and then let you guys go relax. I'm going to just talk about a few more things and then call on the day today. Any questions? Are you overwhelmed yet?
Quick question. So non-repudiation, is that like a DocuSign when you sign a DocuSign document, same thing there?
Right, definitely. And I was going to talk about that in a minute. So if nobody has any question, we can just move on to that one. All right. Yeah. So not definitely DocuSign. If some of you have heard about, DocuSign, definitely DocuSign does provide non-repudiation. Bunch of company use them. You sign that document with DocuSign, you can't go back and repudiate that. I can say, hey, man, it wasn't me. It wasn't me, Eric. And, you know, we know it's you, right? You got your fingerprint all over it. So non-repudiation, you cannot deny taking some kind of action. So the way we do that in a computers is through digital signatures. Digital signatures is what Eric is talking about to DocuSign, where they send you digital files and you can digitally sign them. In a real world, that's where you sign on the back of the check or whatever you put your signatures. Okay. Encryption can also help us accomplish non-repudiation because with encryption, you are given a private key. Every time we see the private key, there are a few things we do. One, we can authenticate you because we know you are who you say you are to that private key. Second, we can know that you are who the one that signed this, right? So we can have the non-repudiation. But for this exam, many times whenever you see non-repudiation, start thinking about digital signatures. Start thinking about digital signatures. And somebody said, Abdul said, what about hashing? Well, hashing is what we're talking about here. Hashing is a way of accomplishing integrity. So we have algorithms such as a SHA and MD5 that help us do the hashing. Okay.
Okay. What I was trying to ask is if we can actually use hashing as well to achieve non-repudiation.
Good question. Hashing will help. The thing about these guys, they're not used just once. Like they all are used up at the same time, like at the same time. So for example, once you encrypt something, we can have a hash on it to make sure that we proves this is things original and all that good stuff. So definitely, Abdul, once you digitally sign something, we can generate a hash of that thing so that later on you can come back and say, hey, that's not my signature. No. First of all, the hash says it didn't change. It's original, right? Second of all, digital signature, your signature is all over this thing. All right, a few more things. Threat, vulnerabilities, and risk. I will come back to these. We have sections where we're going to come back to this, but these are just terminologies. A threat, what is it? This is going to be on lesson 4 as well. This is something that can mess you up. This is the adversary. This is the enemy. It could be an agent, an actor. Also, it could be some kind of a software, malware inside a threat, APT. I'm going to run through this quickly because I have a sections where we're going to come back to this in more depth. Okay. So right now, just introducing this to you. So threat, just remember, threat is something that can mess you up. Right? It's something you don't want in your environment. It could be a person, like a bad guy, an advanced persistence threat, for example. It could be God-made, like a natural disaster, earthquakes, tornadoes. Right? All those things are a threat to your business. It could be a nation state, like a hacking organization that's backed up by their own country. Right? There's a bunch of these. Some of them are backed up by Russia, China, the US got some. You got Iran, you got North Korea, right? But we call these nation states. All these are threats. It's a thing that can mess us up. For a threat to mess you up, you must have a vulnerability. You must have a weakness. A vulnerability is a weakness. So a weakness is just a flaw. It's a flaw into a system, a flaw that the threat can exploit, right? And so that vulnerability could be unpatched system, a system that's not up to date. That vulnerability could be a 0-day, something that we don't even know that is there. Right? It's a weakness that we don't even know that exists. It could be the users that are not trained. They're clicking on these phishing emails. All those things are vulnerabilities, weaknesses. Risk is the probability for loss, a likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability. That's why we call it a risk. Probability. It's something that haven't happened yet, but there's a possibility, there's a probability of this thing happening. So when you Google these things, you see everywhere it says risk equals threat times vulnerabilities. And what this means is that for something to be classified as a risk, both of these two things have to exist. Both a threat and a vulnerability has to exist. In another word, guys, then I'm going to move on. If there is the bad guy, right, there is a threat who can attack you, but you don't have any weaknesses that they can use against you, then there is no risk. That's in theory. Again, I'm speaking from the books, right? In practice, there's always vulnerabilities, right? There's always weaknesses. So, but there's no really a risk. Same thing apply. You can be as weak as the guy who doesn't go to the gym. But if there's no threat to take advantage of those weaknesses, again, there's still no risk. So both of these things have to exist. Both the enemy as well as the weaknesses have to exist for something to be classified as a risk. What is an exploit? Exploit is a technique. It could be a code, right, that the threat can use to take advantage of the weakness. Again, you will hear me saying this over and over again, that a threat exploits a vulnerability, meaning a threat can use code, it can use a technique to exploit, to take advantage of the vulnerability. I'm hoping that's making sense. I know it's a little bit late, but if you understand that, that's great. If you don't understand that, that's okay. I will be coming back to this in lesson 2. So tomorrow, not too long, tomorrow. So this is a really good introduction to that. All right, and other definitions. Who is the enemy? I'll be coming back to this on lesson 2 as well. There is these government-backed groups. We call those nation states. Everybody, a lot of these developed countries, they have these. The issue with the nation states is they don't hack for money. See, 90% of all the hacking that take place is because of money. Somebody tried to get some money. With the nation states, they have their own money. Government can print their own money. So usually they don't hack for money. They hack for espionage. They hack for influencing other nations. For example, what happened in the US in 2016 when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton was, doing what they were doing. They said the Russians came in and they did what they did. So that's nation states. That's nation state. They don't do it for the money. I will be talking about that. So that's the enemy. Organized crime. Organized crime is the rebel. Are evil, literally. These are evil hacking group have been giving the US companies a lot of a hard time. If you have heard about the Colonial Pipeline attack, where in the US we went for like a week without gas because the Colonial shut down their pipelines, right? That was these guys. If you've heard about the JBS meat attacks, these guys. So they have done a bunch of hacking that I will be coming back to in the lesson 2. Dark side also have done a bunch of things. So these are organized crime. They do a bunch of hacking. Most of the time, they do the hacking for the money. Hacktivist is someone or some group that do the hacking based on the ideology. They don't really do it for the money for the most part. They just do it based on what they believe. Sometimes it's for revenge, political, social incentives. It's ideology. We don't want, Joe Biden to be in the White House. Let's hack his computers and expose him. Ideology. Could be political ideology, could be religious based. It really doesn't matter. There is a hacktivist group known as Anonymous. You probably have seen a mask, those hacking masks that everybody wear in the movies. That's Anonymous. So that group declared wars on Russia when Russia, went into Ukraine and did what they did. They literally said, we are at war with Russia. And they started attacking Russian government websites and TV stations and all kinds of stuff. Right? So that's activists. Script kidders. Script kiddies are wannabe hackers. These are the people who don't know what they're doing, but they want to attack. There was a kid, this kid that you're looking at here, who attacked Twitter. This is in 2020. He attacked Twitter. He took over the accounts of Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, like all these super important and famous people. And then he started going in there, the same message that you're looking at here. He said, I am giving back. If you do this for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be matching the funding that you send on this Bitcoin wallet, right? Literally within about 1 minute, he had already collected over $100,000. 1 minute, because these are super famous people. Within 1 minute. And guess what? The FBI, when you attack people like, Barack Obama and Trump, the FBI is coming. So they put all the resources on the kid. Come to find out he's in Florida. He lived in Florida. He was in Florida. And they put this kid in jail. I think he's going to be in jail for forever. There is not really a long time. He's going to be in jail forever. Because they charge him for about like 15 things. And those things I'll be teaching you those in tomorrow. At the end of this lesson, that's where we talk about a law they charge him on. It's known as a Patriot Act, which they came up with that in 2001 when Osama bin Laden happened. That's when they came up with that. And that thing says if you touch a computer without permission, you can go to jail. Literally, as simple as that. So this kid went on and not only touched computers, but he hacked people, and they're super important people, so they lock him up. I brought that story to tell you that was a script kiddies, because people who actually know how to hack, you can never figure out who they are. All right? They're going to be hacking you using somebody else's machine on somebody else's Wi-Fi in a different country. And they're going to do all kinds of things to hide themselves. And I'll be sharing all of that with you in this class. White hat, black hat, gray hat, I'll come back to that later on. APT, this is the Advanced Persistence Threat. This is a group of hackers who knows what they're doing. They're advanced, meaning they really know their stuff. They're persistent, meaning if they want to come after you, they don't care if it's going to take them 10 years. They're persistent. They're very patient, which is why I told you earlier, it's not the question of if they're going to hack you. It's the question of when they're going to hack you. They will hack you. If they really want you that bad, they will get in. Simple as that. Right? They have the funding. Sometimes they're backed up by their own countries. So we're going to take a look at these and dig a little bit deeper and see who they are. We usually call them APT with some numbers. That same company that I showed you earlier, the Mandiant, the people who came up with the M trend report, they're the one who do this APT. They're really respected in the industry. Whatever they said, APT 29, that belongs to Russia. APT 4, it's China. We take that, we believe that. Also, we can call this based on the animal names, Fancy Bell, Wicked Panda. All these are names that are known for these APTs. Super sophisticated, super complicated people who can hack countries, who can hack government. We call those APTs. Sometimes nation states are APTs. Sometimes organized crime, they're APT. APT simply means you have the resources, right? You have the money, you have the knowledge, the brain power, right? And you are the enemy. You are the threat. Last slide for the day, then I'll let you go, is ethical hacking, penetration testing, and red teaming. Ethical hacking. Most people use these interchangeably. All right, whenever they're talking about ethical hacking, pen testing, and red teaming, some people think this is the same thing, and between me and you, it is the same thing. But let's try to differentiate them, right? Ethical hacking. This is when you are the good guy who knows how to do bad things. All right. You are a hacker, but you become ethical. Hopefully, all right? So if you're going to be an ethical hacker, everything you will do that with a written permission. With the written permission, you then do your job. I don't care if you are hired by the company, they can literally throw you under the boat. If it comes down to it, where you went in, you hacked some things and they didn't authorize that in writing, yeah, if the government is after them, they can literally point a finger to you and you can be held accountable. So if some of you be like, I want to become an ethical hacker, yeah, don't ever touch anybody's computer without a written permission. They can't just tell you, hey, you're free, go ahead and start attacking. That's not enough. They have to put that in writing. Because what you're going to do, you're going to manipulate technology to do something that the technology is not designed to do. That's really what you do. You can only do that with a written permission. Pen testing, it's a subset of ethical hacking. It's focused on finding weaknesses, finding those vulnerabilities. Now, it's definitely, you do that using the techniques and the tools that the enemies, the adversaries, the criminals will use. So you have the same skills. That's why I said these are the good people who knows how to do bad things. You got the same skills, the same knowledge. But all you do, you find the vulnerabilities, you find the weaknesses, then you report those weaknesses to the enemy, to the company. Right? To prevent a thief, you might need to think like one. I think makes sense. And some of the people in cybersecurity who are really, really good, they understand, they have the mindset of the ethical guys. The goal is to penetrate. It's not to show off. Most of the time with this is literally to prove that the vulnerability do exist. Red teaming is again another subset of ethical hacking, where you're going in, you're using the same tools and same techniques as the pen tester. But with the red team, it's like playing soccer. Red team, you are the enemy, you are the bad guy. But there's another team known as a blue teamer. Again, guys, I will be coming back to this in one of these lessons. There's another team of a blue teamer you're going to be playing against. Basically, you red teaming, you are offense, you are attacking. The blue team is defending, they're protecting. So what end up happening is that you, the red team, you are trying to improve a blue team. You're trying to help a blue team secure the company. The military started all of this, this red teaming, blue teaming. They're the ones that did this. We in cybersecurity grabbed it, especially in 2014 when Target got breached, and in 2016 when Sony got breached. I will share these stories with you once we get to those sections as well. But red team, you are an ethical hacker. But the way you do your hacking is when there's an exercise taking place. An exercise meaning there's a blue team who's defending, and you're the red team who's trying to attack, and then you're doing that to try to make blue better, right? Trying to improve blue team. And this game, it's really not fair, because when it comes to red teaming, you only need to find the one weaknesses. You only need to find the one vulnerabilities, then you're in. When it comes to blue team, you need to find all the vulnerabilities and then fix them. Right? So the game is kind of not fair. If you were to think this from soccer, it's really one team trying to find one way of scoring the goal and they're in, and then you're trying to find all kinds of ways of making sure they don't do exactly just that. So it's a little bit not fair, but again, I will be coming back to this in more depth. And the things you're looking at here, we will be talking about this today, but let me give you the terminologies. The reason why I decided to cover these terminologies in the beginning is because you need to have the lingo, the languages, the terms that these people use when they're communicating, which is why we talked about ethical hacking, red teaming, threat, vulnerability, all that stuff. Anyway, one other terminology that you need to be aware of is audit and auditing. This is GRC, this is governance. You've seen this probably about 5 times already. It's because it's that important. Right? Is that important in our space. Auditors are people that are really, really respected. Well, depends on who you ask. They're really, really respected because they walk up to the company and they said, hey, Mr. Company, are you complying with some kind of a law? So security audits implies measuring the company against some kind of a standard or some kind of a law. That law could be PCI DSS. I'll be coming back to this. This is very important. This is for credit cards. Every company that accepts credit card, which is basically every company, have to comply with PCI DSS. And you can specialize in PCI, become what they normally call a QSA. QSA is a quality assurance assessor, right? Yeah, I think that's what that stands for. It's, one of you can Google it. But what they do, these people, they walk up to companies like Target and they're like, hey, Mr. Target, are you protecting credit card information that you're collecting from your customers? Right? And these people make a lot of money. So you are the auditor, but you specialize in PCI. You can do COBIT. COBIT is from ISACA, the company that I work for. They came up with this. ISACA, right? So COBIT, as an organization, you can we can assess you based on the COBIT. ISO 27001 and 27002, I will be coming back to that. It's another standard that we can assess our organization against. HIPAA, everybody knows HIPAA. This is healthcare. SOC 2, it's another one that's very popular in the US. We'll be talking about this one. We'll talk about SOC 1 and then SOC 2. GDPR, I've been mentioning this quite a lot since yesterday. This is from EU, European Union. All those 18 countries in the EU, they got together, they came up with this. And they said, if you do business with EU citizens, this is European Union, EU citizens, you have to comply with GDPR. This is basically privacy. You have to keep EU citizens' data private. You have to protect it. Do whatever you can, you have to protect it. If you get hacked, and they find out it was your fault, they're coming for you. Right? I usually tell people this is not a bad career at all to specializing in the GDPR. Then you don't necessarily have to know all of this. You can basically just pick one standard and then just zero into it. I mean, that's a little bit of too extreme of a specialization, but money always, it's in a specialization. When you specialize in something, that's where you start making a lot of money, because there's not a whole bunch of people who will know as deep as you in that thing that you specialized in. For example, a PCI QSA can make up to 150 in the US, but it's not walk in the park. It takes time and it takes few years. Auditing always is done with a detailed checklist. Usually you're checking the boxes. You say, HIPAA says this. Are you doing this check? Are you doing this check? Are you doing this check? Right? Most people like to think that auditors, especially technical people, think auditors, they don't know what they're talking about or they're useless, but really they're as important. The reason why technical people don't like them is because auditors force them to do stuff that they think might not be important or it's boring, right? All right. Let's get going. So now let's get into the meat of this conversation, some of the things that you need to be aware of. Your question might be, okay, what are the competencies? What are some of the skills that I must have? And these are from CompTIA themselves. So what are the competencies that I need to be aware of as an information security professional? Well, the first one you need to be aware of is risk assessment, risk management, and risk testing. What this is, you are assessing the risk to the organization. I said this yesterday that at the end of the day, guys, all of us, all we do in cybersecurity is managing risks. And the reason why I say that yesterday is because you, as a cybersecurity professional that works for a company, you will look at the company that you work for, and then look at how they do business, and then identify what's risky to them. Okay. Yesterday, I gave you 4 questions that you need to ask whenever you are looking at securing your environment. And the first one was, what is important to us? Like, what is critical to our organization? When you define what's the thing that's critical, it gives you the data, if you will, that you need to know how risky your business is. So you have to do risk assessment. Risk assessment is by understanding who's the enemy that's going to be attacking us, and what is the likelihood of them attacking us. How likely are they going to succeed when it comes to attacking us? And once you do the risk assessment, you can go to these people who sign the checks and tell them, hey, look, we need this much money to invest in security, or we need this much money to buy some kind of a product. But it all starts with the risk assessment. We have to know our weaknesses. We have to know how risky we are. Okay. Next, specifying sourcing, installing, and configuring stuff. This is really a very simple competence, a very simple skill. As someone who get into cybersecurity, you need to know how to install things, software, and maybe hardware. You will do that from time to time. You know, they give you a computer. That computer doesn't have all the necessary tools you need. You need to know where to get the tools, and you need to know how to bring them. So this is a very given. Another one, it's access control and the user privileges. Yesterday, I told you about Marriott Hotel. One of the things that I say about Marriott Hotel is they got breached because of 2 employees, right? So that's because they were not doing this. They were not doing access control. Access control and the user privileges, it's all about giving people the only access, the only permission they need to do their job, and nothing less, nothing more. You need to know that. And this is a part of the IAM, the Identity and Access Management. Identity and Access Management, which is a career that you can specialize in. Chapter 8 is going to dig deeper into this one. Right? Auditing, we talked about that. So auditing logs and events, ideally you want to go back into those logs. I always tell people, look, computers snitch. Everything you do on your computer, the computer keeps tracking of everything that you're doing. So they have logs of everything that was taking place. Our job in cybersecurity is to go back and look at those logs. Some people don't do that. You know, some people don't go back and look at those logs, but that's one of those very important competencies you must possess. You got to be able to go look at the computer and what the computer is reporting to you. Another one, incident response. This is important. We have a chapter dedicated just to this. You got to know how to respond to things. It's not the question of if something bad will happen. It's the question of, are you ready? Are you prepared to respond to these incidents? Let's say that you were reviewing the logs and you find out that they were attacking you. Well, you're going to have to kick in the incidents. You're going to be like, hey, we're under attack. There's an incident here. Then you got to know how to respond to it. There are steps that you must take when it comes to responding to incidents. Then I'll teach you those. Business continuity. You will quickly learn that a company or companies, they don't exist to become secure. That's one of those things that I learned the hard way. The hard way. Companies don't wake up every morning and be like, hey, I'm hoping I'm the most secure company there is. No. They wake up every morning, they said, hey, how can we make more money than we made last year, last month, last week, right? It's all about the money. It's all about the money. So even when they're under attack, business goes on. Business goes on. If they're under attack and they shut down for about a week, that's a lot of businesses that they lost. And they don't like that. So I will teach you how can we recover from things like disaster, as well as how can a business continue operating even if there's an incident, even if they are under attack. Because at the end of the day, that's what they care about. They want to protect their reputation, right? So business continuity is kind of huge. Training and education. This is a given. Each one of you will absolutely start making noises. You're going to start telling people, don't click on this link. Don't be doing this. And part of the reason is because you are now going to secure the entire company yourself. You need help. Right? You're going to get help from the people who works for the company. So training and education awareness is important. So these are competencies. Will CompTIA go in and ask you, hey, how many competencies you have to know? No, not at all. Not at all. But good stuff to know. Here's a few more things. What is the business unit? Well, most of you, especially in the beginning, you will work in what we normally call a SOC. SOC stands for Security Operations Center. It's something like what you're looking at here. And this gentleman here. You have a bunch of big screens. Those screens have dashboards and things flying all over the places. Then you have your little workstation, your computer here where you are doing the actual work. So SOC, it could be a department. Most of the time, it's actually a department where everybody who protects the organization, they work in that SOC. So incident responder, forensic people, SOC analyst, security analyst, and all the other ones, they all work in that department. And they have one goal and one goal only, and that's to protect the organization. I always tell people, here is the mission of cybersecurity people, and that is to make sure the business keeps operating without any interruption. If you've ever been in the environment and they start asking you, hey, why should we pay you this much money? Because I am the enabler. I allow the business to do what the business does without any interruption. Okay. So what happens is in the SOC, the Security Operations Center, people here, they're monitoring, they're protecting the environment. And they do that starting with the critical stuff, starting with the hardware, the software that if they shut down, everything will shut down with it. You might also see what they call a SOC analyst. The SOC analyst is a job title. Most people tend to apply for that role when they finish with things like Security Plus or CISA Plus, right? Another certification that you can go for after Security Plus. So SOC analyst, again, you are the first line of defense. Bad things are happening at the company. You are the person that looks at that which is happening and then determine if this bad or is this not bad and what's going on here. Some companies have different tiers of SOCs. Some companies have tier 1 SOC, tier 2 SOC, tier 3 SOC. Most of them goes up to 3. Tier 1 SOCs, these are the people who basically are just getting started. Right? Again, you're still the first line of defense. You're still at the forefront. Bad things are happening. You are the eyes for the organization. Right? And then tier 2 SOCs, these are the people who actually can investigate, what just happened. So at the tier 1, your job is just to watch what is happening, and then you report that to someone else who can investigate it, who can fix it. And then at the tier 2, that's where you have the knowledge, the skills to actually dig a little bit deeper, to be able to kind of investigate. So partially, you are part of that incident response team, one of these teams here. Okay. And tier 3, this is like a senior level of a SOC. This is where you're making that $140,000 a year. That means you're very, very technical. Like you understand your stuff when it comes to SOC and responding to incidents. Yeah, so that's part of the business unit. So one other thing, and this has been in the news recently, is DevSecOps. There's DevSec, there's this DevSecOps. This is development, security, and operation. Basically, this is the people who understand the development, meaning they know how to code, they know coding. And then security, they know what I am teaching you in this class, so they're familiar with a bunch of the concepts. Then operation, they understand the business side of things, so the day-to-day stuff. So if you can learn all of this, DevSecOps will be a pretty good place to be. What they usually do, because they know a little bit of all these things, they deal with automation. I have a chapter where we're going to dive deeper into automation, and I will come back to that a little bit. But DevOps or DevSecOps, they literally deal with automating things. They create scripts. They write a little program that can automate things. And a great example would be this. Imagine if we need to patch. How many people have heard about patching? What is a patch?
Part of my job. That's what I do every month, every couple of weeks, actually. So updates, doing updates.
Just fixing stuff.
Yeah, updates, applying a fix, right?
Yeah.
Eric, tell us a little bit more. So how do you do it?
So on the servers, the Windows servers, we just go in and same way that you would update your computer, we would download and install the update and then reboot the server. Make sure that the services that the server provides are up and running. So if it's a print server, for instance, we make sure that all the print services are back up and running.
Mhm.
Applications, they release their own patches periodically. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's twice a month if they, discovered vulnerabilities. So you'll go in and you'll update the application according to their instructions on how to go about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's pretty much
Okay,
what we
so
do.
let me ask you this. So what happens if, let's say, like 100 or 1,000 of your machines all need to be fixed? All of them need those updates. How do you do it?
We have a schedule, so we break it down. We have about 130 or so servers altogether.
Mhm.
So we have a schedule where we divide them into classes of they call it Halloween levels. So there's low, medium, and high, which determines if they're a low priority server, medium priority server, or high priority server. And we do those on different days and different weeks. And we do that because sometimes the patches can cause problems. So you want to do your low, your low grade servers first, because if there's a problem, you want to experience that on something that's not going to be critical to production or the business. And then from there, once you feel comfortable, you'll start gradually moving into your medium grade. And then once you feel really comfortable, you move into your high grade. And then the high grade, those are usually virtual. So we'll take snapshots of those before we patch them, just in case something goes wrong. We can always revert back to what it was before the patch.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, for just a little bit above 100 servers, that's really not that bad. But guys, there are these environments where you have 10,000 machines that you need to patch. Yeah, you can't do it the way Eric and the team does when you have these many machines. So what you're going to do is create a script. And that script will be pushed to, if not all of them, you can put them in different buckets, just like what Eric and the team does. But you will push those based on the script. That's where the DevOps people comes in. They create that script so it can automate that patching process.
And we do use a WSUS server to push the updates to the low and medium grades. The high grades are all done manually, but the lower and medium grades, that is a scripted download and install, but we still have to manually go in and reboot those servers because some of them have to be rebooted after hours, not during work hours.
Gotcha. Yeah, guys. And WSUS, it's a Windows program. You want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah, so WSUS, it's a Windows program, guys, that's used for patching and updating, which we're gonna come back to it. But the point was, if you enjoy programming, this is a pretty good place to be. They're hiring a lot of people. Go to Indeed right now and just search DevOps. You'll see a bunch of openings there as well. Incident response. I've mentioned about this. Incident response, these are the people who are gonna be notified when something bad just happened. So there are different names they go by. You can call them CERT, CCERT, CERT. But really, cyber incident response team or computer emergency response team, they do the same thing. Bad things just happen. They kick in the process of responding to that incident. All right, good stuff. Now let's dive into the controls that you need to be aware of when it comes to securing these environments. There are categories. This stuff is going to be all over your exam, guys. So stay with me. It's going to be all over that exam. So these are the categories of the controls. Security controls are the things that you can do to secure the organization. One of the things that you can do is put a technical control in place. You may okay, whoa, hold on a minute. What is a technical control? Well, a technical control is the security that is implemented by a technology, is a control that is implemented by some kind of a technology. That technology could be an operating system. It could be a software, like a firewall software. It could be a security appliance, like a firewall hardware. It doesn't matter. It's a control that is implemented with a technology. With a technology. So something like access control list, it's an absolutely technical control. A firewall, absolutely technical control. Okay. And then you have some controls that are implemented by humans. And that is the operational control. This is the control that depends on a person for implementation. This is like your supervisor checking on you. Be like, hey, have you changed your password? All right, it'll be 90 days. Have you changed your password? That's an operational control. It happens day to day when the company is running. These are the people, supervisors, or your managers enforcing these things. Right? Is the permission applied? That's more of like an operational controls. Usually happens during a day-to-day as the company is operating. It's not implemented by a technology, it's pushed by a human. Then you have your managerial control. Managerial controls are controls that are implemented by humans, but they provided the oversight. These are just documents. Managerial controls are documents. Managerial controls are like policies. They're like policies and procedures. For example, a company might have a document that says you should change your password every 90 days. That's just a piece of paper. Then before they hire you, they will have you sign that paper. Said, hey, read over this. Make sure you understand that every 90 days you have to sign to change your password. You agree? I agree. Put a signature here. That's a managerial control. Right. Usually, managerial controls are useless unless they are enforced by operational. Because if there's just a piece of paper that says change your password every 90 days, guess how many people that's going to change their password after 90 days? No one. Yeah, nobody. So someone have to be on their neck, have to tell them, hey, have you changed your password? In fact, we will take that one step further, then implement some kind of a technology that's going to expire their password after 90 days. All right, so what I'm trying to tell you here is this. All of these three are used at the same time. It's not like we use one over the other. No, we use all of them at the same time. And for the most part, technical controls enforced managerial as well as operational. Imagine one day you show up to work and then your computer is telling you, hey, your password has expired. The only time you can log into this one is if you change your password right now. Most people will go ahead and just change their password right there then. Right? But that will be a technical control, where the technology itself is telling you, hey, you should do this right now. These are going to be on that exam. Then we have functional controls. Right? We have functions. And these are important. And these can be found in multiple categories. See, those are the big pictures, the big categories. These are functional. And they're going to be all over that exam. I can emphasize that enough. And not only in Security Plus, but when you come in and study for things like the CISSP, these are all over in that exam as well. So they're that important. So functional controls, including things like preventive control. Preventive control is something that I'm trying to see if I should ask you a question about this or if I should just tell you what it is. But preventive controls does what it sounds like, right? It's used to prevent stuff. Now, it could be physically, logically, it doesn't matter. But it's literally going in, it's preventing bad stuff from happening. Usually this happens before an incident occurs, right? It focuses on preventing things from happening. Now, let me ask you a few things. What is a physical preventive control that you know of? That's physical. What can physically prevent you from doing stuff?
Like when you're safe.
Say a safe?
If you're sick, it can prevent you from doing anything.
Sorry, can you repeat that for me?
I said like physical prevention. Like if you get sick, it's gonna prevent you from doing everything that you're supposed to be doing on that day.
Oh, if you get sick. Oh. Okay, I see what you're saying. So I'm asking something that's more like a physical, something that you can touch and feel. I give you a heads up. What about a door? You guys don't make it this complicated when it's not. What about
Yeah.
a door? A door at your house. What do we use a door for?
It's to lock. It's to prevent us from thieves from entering into the house. Prevent somebody to enter into the house.
Prevent animals from coming in.
Exactly. Right? So that's a physical preventive control. What about a fence? What about
preventing someone coming into your backyard or something, animals?
Into your backyard, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, so these are a preventative control. So what you need to understand here is that they do their job before an incident happens. Before somebody break into your house, the door was there to stop them, to prevent them from doing that.
That's physical.
Right? That's a physical control. Now, when it comes to logical is something that obviously we cannot touch or feel or see. There is a couple of them, and let me introduce a few of them here. Then we're going to talk about them in later chapters. One logical controls that we have, it's known as a VLAN. How many people have heard about VLAN? Virtual Local Area Network. No problem. That's why you're here. VLAN. VLAN, it's virtual meaning it's something you create inside of a router. It's a virtual LAN that you can use for segmentation purposes. What does segmentation means? Daniel, I think you're on mute.
Divided into sections, like small sections or the different sections.
Correct.
You divide it.
Right. So divide something into different sections, like into different pieces. So VLANs in computers, we use VLANs to logically divide our network into different chunks. And what that helps, it will prevent someone to have access to everything. Everything. Let me tell you one story. In 2014, coming to 2014, the company we both know and love, Target, got breached. Right? 2013, they got breached. And this was huge. Millions. Target attack of 20. There you go. Millions of customers' information got stolen. Go up a little bit. So 40 million credit cards, debit records, and 70 million customers' records were stolen from Target. This was huge. This is the first time a lot of people started, a lot of a CEO, a lot of these leaders started paying attention to cybersecurity. Before then, cybersecurity was one of those things nice to say, yada, 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 yada. But when Target happened, what happened to a lot of leaders, they watched that on CNN. So they wake up this morning and then Target got breached, and then it was bad. And I'm going to tell you the story in a minute here. It was so bad that the entire cybersecurity Target at the time got fired, and some of the leaders got fired. And they failed to do just one simple thing, and that's what we're talking about here. So in Target case, what happened was this. They had an HVAC system. Right? Who's you have heard about HVAC? The AC system. They had an AC system that does the cooling in their stores. And then the mistake the people who design that network, and I will come back to this story in chapter 9 once we start talking about network designs. They made this AC system, the HVAC system, to talk to the register. So meaning if you get to the HVAC, you can literally log into the register where they collect the money and the credit card and all that stuff from. And that wasn't the mistake. Here is the big mistake. It was just like that in all the stores around the world. All the Target stores around the world were all just like that. Because what happened in this case, the attacker got into the HVAC, and then they got into the registers of Target, and they were able to steal these many millions of customers and credit cards. They failed to do segmentation. They failed to do VLAN. Because if they have done VLANs, what will happen is this. If one store get breached, or if one HVAC get breached, the attacker will only have access to that particular store. Nothing else, just that particular store. So VLAN and segmentation is one of the best security. But guess what? People who design networks, sometimes they don't know that. They don't know security. So that's why once you get hired, it's one of those things you're going to have to look at. Look at how things are designed. Anyway, back to the preventative.
Quick question for you. Was this like before VLANs were popular or something? Because like nowadays, VLANs are in every environment. So I couldn't imagine them designing a network like that nowadays. So was this like the push that really made network professionals understand that you have to segment the networks and divide things up?
Right, great question. This was the push for them to understand that security is not something you can add on top of this thing that you've already designed. Because that was the mindset. Remember, even in the 70s and the 80s, when they were making the internet, the protocols, security is always not in the room. They do all this amazing stuff, and then they add the security later. So to answer your question, Eric, VLAN was there. VLAN had been around for 20, 30 plus years. But network engineers, they just want things to work. They just want to connect all these pieces together and have everything working. Like, they're not worried about segmentation, about the security, about the afterthought, none of that. But Eric, when this happened, because a bunch of people got fired, especially the leaders, yeah, it was like everybody started looking. I remember the guy who was teaching us this stuff. He said we went to work the next day, and our CEO had a all hands meeting, and the CEO said, "What do I need to do to keep my name out of CNN?" That was the question he asked. What do I need to do to make sure my name doesn't get on CNN? And obviously, if you work in security or tech, that's when you ask more money, funding. Like, hey, we need to buy this shiny tool. We need to buy this. We need to do VLANs. We need to hire more people. We need to do all kinds of stuff. Eric, does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yep.
So I get a question. So I've seen it like when you mentioned about CIA and you talked about availability, does VLAN does exactly what you mentioned in like availability when there is availability? So you have like a couple of sections or a couple of servers. So one stops, the others keep going. Doesn't, I mean, like share with, I mean, like the denial of service thing you talked about? Is that?
Yeah. No, not necessarily. So what VLANs is, you know what, let me just bring it up since we're talking about this. So imagine the Cisco switch. You do VLANs on the switch, by the way. So this is a hardware, a Cisco switch. And most of them looks like this. Small image. Find something big. There we go. Well, that works. Better. So Omar and everybody else. So what VLANs is, this is where you go to your switch and then you logically, not physically, you logically take your switch and chunk it into small pieces. So you go there, you said, hey, just these 4 ports, these right here, they belong to management. So every computer that belongs to the managers will be connected to these 4. These other 4 belongs to the sales department. So everybody who works in sales are going to be on VLAN 10, and then you're gonna give them a name like a VLAN 10, and this could be like a VLAN 20 or VLAN 30. So basically, you divide the switch into small switches, if you will. And what happens, Omar, is this: these different VLANs, they won't be able to talk to each other. They can't talk to each other, which means if someone in sales get attacked, it's gonna stay right here. Although they're connected in on the same switch, it's just gonna be right here. The attacker can't just break out of this and then start attacking other things on that network. So it's a way just to, logically segment, like divide a switch into different pieces for security reasons. It's for security reasons, so that if one portion gets attacked, not everything gets attacked. See, the issue with the target, they had a flat network where everything was talking to everything. That's a problem. Okay, because once the attacker gets in, you don't want them to have access to everything else. You want to be able to make sure they only have access to certain things. Osman, does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to that in chapter 9. Great. And there's some great graphics in the chat here. I see TL is sharing those things for us. All right, so we were talking about preventative, right? Preventative, we want to prevent things before they happen. That's the focus here. It's going to be on that exam. Keep an eye on it. Detective, I think this does what it sounds like, right? This operates during an attack. It's a control we can put in place, things that we can put in place to prevent, to detect stuff. It's not going to prevent, it's not going to deter. Deter is discourage. Deterrent is discouraging something or someone. It's not going to deter, it's not going to prevent, but it will definitely detect stuff. Some of the things that come in mind here, including CIEM, IDS, which is intrusion detection systems. This is the security information and event management. I will teach you all these in the upcoming chapters. Remember, guys, prevention is ideal. Detection is a must. We talked about yesterday, right? We want to prevent. VLAN, do all kinds of security. But bad things will get in. And once they get in, we want to be able to detect them as soon as we can. That's where detection comes in. It happens during an incident. Whenever the attack is taking place, we rely on the detective tools to help us. Because once the attack is taking place, our prevention have failed us. All the firewalls, all the VLANs, all the things we've put in place have failed us. Right. Another one, corrective. Response to and the fixes on an incident, and it may also prevent its reoccurrence. Right? This is going to operate after the incident. Corrective. This is the aftermath. Okay, well, bad stuff just happened. We are correcting from that incident now. We're going in and we're fixing things. We're going in and we're restoring from the backups. Right? We are re-imaging the hard drives. We are, removing things, removing the viruses. That's corrective. After an incident. Then you have things like physical controls. We mentioned some of these already when we were talking about preventative. Remember, guys, a bunch of these can be found in multiple locations. So physical controls such as a turn tile, gate, locks, fences, like anything that's physical really that you can look and feel and probably hug, it's going to be a physical control. Right. Deterrent. Deterrent controls, I've sort of mentioned this one already. This is there to discourage you, to discourage the intruder from proceeding with whatever that they were planning on doing. So it's not going to prevent, not physically, not logically, it won't prevent anything because it's just like a sign. Remember, if someone put a sign in their yards that says no trespass, if you trespass, will that sign move and stop you from trespassing? The answer is no, right? So that's deterrent. It's there to discourage you, to tell you, hey, I should not be trespassing. This is very budget friendly. Remember that for your exam. And is here for psychologically to tell someone to think twice before moving forward. So signage, it's one. If there's like a CCTV camera that's not being monitored, that's also a deterrent control. That's actually a pretty good example because it might pop up on that exam like that. See, CCTVs are used as a way of detecting things because they're watching, right? They're physical. They're physical in their nature, but they're there for detective purposes, for detecting the intruders. But the only time they do that is if someone is watching. They're watching the monitor. If they're not watching and the CCTV just right there, maybe there's a little sign that says we're recording, it becomes a deterrent control, where it's there to discourage you, psychologically telling you, hey, you're being recorded. Another one is compensating. Who's here have heard about compensating controls?
Yeah, okay.
Sure. Talk to us. What is it?
Compensating controls are controls that you just place them there while the original or the main control is not available. So you just use those ones prior or pending while you're making proper arrangements for a better option, sort of.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love it. Good job. Right. It's an alternative. You're gonna have to remember this for your exam. It's an alternative. So on that exam, they're gonna ask you things like, oh, there's this encryption thing that we cannot put in place. Therefore, we compromise and try to do this other thing instead. What is the other thing that we did? It's a compensating control. It's a substitute. It's something that you put in place if the primary control is not ready, is not available, right? Or you want this to accompany another control. It's all compensating. It's compensating. So if the first control is too difficult to implement, then you put a compensating controls in place. Okay. What could be a compensating control for a CCTV camera? For the CCTV system, what could be a compensating control for that?
A fake camera.
Camera. I like that, but no, I would not take that one. What can we put in place if the CCTV is not ready? What can we put in place that will do the exactly same thing a CCTV will do?
Like the signage?
Like a caution tape.
Okay, like a signage or a caution tape. Okay.
Tape, yeah.
Well, both of those will do the deterrent, right? Will discourage.
Yeah, sure.
But will they be able to detect stuff?
No, they will not detect.
Okay, so what can we put in place that will detect things? Because that's what we primarily use a CCTV for.
Security guard?
Absolutely. I was thinking, I'm like, can you see my icon?
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, so definitely a security guard. So what can a security guard accomplish?
Basically the same thing that the CCTV can. It's just a live version. You can watch and see what's going on. It can also report and possibly even, deter. It can correct. It can be a physical if it needs to be,
Yeah.
That's it. So CCTV guard can do a whole lot. They can prevent, detect, deter, they can compensate, they can do all kinds of stuff. So imagine if a CCTV will cost us $50,000. We don't have that money yet. But we can just hire someone for $8 an hour and have them be there for a week as we wait for the CCTV to be ready, right? Compensating. Any questions with this? These are going to be all over that exam. My questions are going to be on these right here. Any questions on them? All right, I'll take that as a no. Let's keep going. Now let's talk about the boring stuff that is necessary. Right? This is the ISO. These are the standards, the framework that you need to be aware of for the sake of this exam. And if you are going to be in a GRC, you will enjoy knowing this stuff. So this is probably your place of interest. So guys, look, in cybersecurity, we need laws, we need policies, we need things that can govern us. And sometimes we call that stuff frameworks, right? And we have things like ISO. ISO, it's International Organization for Standardization. That's what that stands for. I can promise you, if this wasn't here, I would not remember what this stands for. So it's not about remembering what it stands for. It's about knowing what it does. So ISO, what is it? One, it's international. It's a framework. It's a standard that was developed, right? This is an organization that actually developed those standards. They developed thousands and thousands of standards over the years. Three of the standards that they've developed that you need to be aware of are listed here. These are going to be all over that exam. The first standard is ISO 27001. I don't ask you to memorize stuff, but this is the moment, the only moment that I'll be like, okay, you got to memorize this. Is stuff you got to memorize for the sake of that exam. So ISO 27001, it's a standard that is designed to help organizations, help companies to manage, it's for management, to manage their cybersecurity program. It's for management their cybersecurity program. So it's great for organizations that want to expand into new global markets and it needs to maintain a compliance with international bodies. It's literally in the name, international. If the company wants to be international company, they will use ISO 27001 as a way of proving to all the companies, hey, look, the way we've implemented our cybersecurity program, it's right. The 27001 is the big picture. It gives you the overview of, okay, you should be doing this. You should have a segmentation. You should have a firewall in place. You should have this tool in place. That's what 27001 accomplishes. Now, when you do it the right way, you can also get a certification. But before I talk about the certification and go back to 02002, I want to show you this. Some of you might enjoy reading and you might want to read into it. So 27001, if we go to their website here, I drop this in the chat. There we go. And you can just get a PDF version of this. I had a class in college, they had us to dig into this. It was the most boring thing I've ever done. Not to discourage you. All right, where are we going? There we go. So this is for security management systems. This is how you go in, you manage your cybersecurity program, basically. 27001 is designed to give guidance for the organization that are trying to manage their cybersecurity programs or set it up. And it's international, which means it's approved around the world. If you are like Microsoft, the company Microsoft, and you want companies around the world to know that you take security serious, you will follow what ISO says, and then get ISO to certify you as a company. So 24001 provides not only the big picture of this is what you should be doing to secure your organization, it also goes in and give you the certification. So there's a 27001, the big picture, the document that I'm showing you right now, and then there's a certification of that. And I can show you what this is. It's like Security Plus, but for your organization here. So you can become a company that has this 27001 certified. What that means is you have taken security serious. International organizations are going to trust you. What that means is you went in, you implemented this, and then ISO came in, audit you. That's where you come in. If you become like a GRC, you can become like a 27001, I think they call them implementer, where you can go to organization and then assess them based on the 27001. Then once they pass everything, you put a check mark. So like, hey, did you do this? Yeah. Did you do this? Yeah. Did you do this? Yeah. You certify them. You give them this certification. And this proves to the customers, this proves to other businesses, the partners, that this particular company should be trusted. They do take security serious internationally. Okay. So your question might be, okay, if ISO 27001 is the big picture, then what is the implementation? What is the step-by-steps of how to implement this? That's where ISO 27002 comes in. Right? 002 is the implementation of 001. This is just another document. See, in the simple words, it's like this. 27001 says you should have a firewall. You should implement a firewall, and this is a firewall will be good for this and this and this. 27002 will come in and give you how. Here is how you are going to implement that firewall. Step 1, you should do this. Step 2, it will give you the specifics, the techniques, right, that you will use to implement 27001. All right, I cannot beat this one enough.
So is that mean the 27002, it gives you an instruction of how the 27001 work?
So it will give you the instructions of how 001 is implemented. So it tells you this is how you are going to implement it. These are the techniques of implementing 001. Right? It's like two different people. The first one is your manager. This is what this is. It's for management. The first one is your manager. You know how managers are? They just walk around with big, stomach and just telling everybody what to do. That's 27001. Just telling everybody what to do. Hey, everybody, you got to be doing this. Then 27002 will be the mentor, will be the senior person you work with, that kind of guide you into the process. And like, hey, look, for you to be able to do what the manager asks us to do, here is the technique that you will use to do that. Then once that's implemented, 27001 can be certified. And then the reason why, remember this you got to remember this for that exam. This is going to be all over that exam. You are at least going to see 3 questions or 5 questions on that exam on this. So once you become certified, it's going to give you, customers some insurance. Right? Internationally, imagine you're going to UK and you try to set up your US company in the UK. Right? It's going to give your customer some insurance that the organization, the company meets security standards. In other words, they are taking security serious. They are committed to keeping themselves secure. That's what that certification does. So in that exam, they're going to ask you things like, okay, a company is trying to go international. They're trying to implement some standard. What can they use to provide assurance to their customer? What do they need to, get some assurance to their customer that they're taking security serious? 27001, if it's an international company, should be your choice. Okay. All right, so 27001, ISO came out after 2018. 2018, they came out with this one. It's known as a 277. Right? Do not confuse this one with the rest of the other ones. This one is a 277 standard. What this is an extension to the 001 and 002. And it only focuses on privacy. It only focuses on privacy. And privacy is how you keep the information you're collecting secure. Here's what I usually tell students. We live in an information age. Your data have become the new gold. The reason why we have these companies, these Google, these Facebooks, is because of your data. Right? I know a guy who said, if the company is not charging you money, then you are the product, which I thought was funny. But whenever you go on Facebook and using these, these TikToks and these other things, they're not charging you money because they want to learn as much as they can about you and then sell that information to the advertisers. Right? So what end up happening is that they get rich, they become $1 trillion company off of your data. So what ISO 277 does comes in and says, hey, look, you're collecting all this data on these people, protect it. Because if you don't, we're coming after you. And, actually they did this as a response to the GDPR. I'll be talking about GDPR next, but GDPR. All right, if you see ISO 277, with another 7, start thinking about privacy. All right, they have another one, ISO 31K. This is for risk management. This is just look for risk management, how companies should go in and managing their risk. ISO 31K for risk management. And recently, a lot of companies are going into the cloud. So there's this Cloud Security Alliance. CSA got together. They formed a couple of things. They came up with the architecture. They came up with what they call control metrics, basically trying to help companies that are migrating into the cloud, how they do it, how they should do it. So a bunch of a cloud service provider got together. I'm talking about AWS, Amazon Web Services, Google, Microsoft, Oracle. They all got together. They put this alliance in place, basically to help enterprises, to help customers guide them into their journey into the cloud. We at ISACA have a partner up with these guys, CSA, to give out a certification. So we do have a certification that's solely from us and these guys helping people that are trying to transition into the cloud. That's not going to be on that exam. What's going to be on that exam is the 27001, the 27001, and the 27001 certification, as well as the 27701. That will definitely pop up on that exam. All right, a few more things. Other frameworks. We have this other thing that's known as a SOC. You're like, a SOC again? I thought just finished talking about the Security Operations Center. Yeah, this is another SOC. Right? It's known as a Service Organization Control. You're like, okay, it's from this organization that I can even pronounce. It's a Statements on Standards for Attestation Engagements. That's the name of the company. Right, never mind all that. What you need to know is this right here. SOC 2. Before SOC 2, they used to have SOC 1. And SOC 1 dealt with finances, right? How company report their finances. So we don't do anything with SOC 1. In cybersecurity, we deal with SOC 2. SOC 2 have two different assessments or two different reports, I should say. There is a type 1 report and there's type 2 report. And before I even move any further, I want to make sure you understand this. SOC 2 is done in the US. It's not international, just a bunch of US company, they do this. This is respected in the US. It's very common in the US. And the problem SOC came to solve was the problem of knowing if people are taking security serious or not. Same problem. See, before, guys, imagine if one company wanted to collaborate with another company. Okay, it's like, okay, how do I know you're taking security serious? The answer is, I don't. You can tell me you're taking security serious, but how do I know? But if I go in and ask for some kind of a report, that will give me an idea if you're taking security serious or not. It's similar to that certification, the ISO 27001 certification. It solves a similar problem, but in the US. That one is international. This one is in the US. So what is the difference between these two different reports? So the report number 1, so SOC 2 type 1 report, it's going to assess the design of the environment. Hey, see how we talked about how network engineers, they really don't know security? They just design things and just put pieces together, not really care, not really bake security into the design of their environments. That's the problem this report solves. So it's going in, it's assessing the environment, and then they're looking at if the environment is designed with security in mind. So it's a one-time thing, by the way. It's a one-time thing. They're going in, they're just assessing. They're like, hey, Are you secure? Okay, well, let's assess you, right? Run the assessment. Let's see if you've included the security in your design. Let's see if right now, as we're assessing you, you are secure. That's the first report. Here's the issue when it comes to security. You can be secure today, and then you get hacked tomorrow. That's the natural truth of cybersecurity, right? Today you might think you're secure, but later on we will talk about 0 days. There are even some things we don't know that exist, but they're there. Like we have no idea they're in our environment, but they're there. So the issue with this type 1 report is that it cannot really give us the insurance that you're secure because it's done at just one time. And it's designed to assess the design of your environment. That's where type 2, SOC 2 type 2 report comes in. This right here, they're going to assess the effectiveness of your security for about 6 months or so. This is where like they send people, this organization, they send people to your building. These people are assessing, right? They're assessing to see how you guys work, if you're taking security serious, if you are, practicing what you're teaching, basically. They assess you, how secure you are for about 6 months or so. They hold you accountable. Because most people, by the way, and this is the hard truth, I hate to say it, but this is the hard truth. Most organizations, they're going to do the bare minimum they need to satisfy the auditor. Like, okay, Daniel is going to come and audit us in the next, few weeks. Then we just do everything we can to make sure we meet what Daniel wants. As soon as he left, we go back to our old habits. I remember this one time. My first job, I was a dishwasher, and I'm right there. I'm washing the dishes, and we have a chef. And I didn't know that there were people from the city that comes to check on the food in restaurants. And every time this guy shows up, we will do everything in our power. Like the kitchen will be clean. Like we won't go home until 2 a.m. Right? Just making sure that place is clean. Now, they do a lot of that. As soon as the guy left, we went back to our old habits, right? Throwing things on the floor and not picking them up. Right? Same thing in this case. So what do we need what do we need for the most part is the type 2 report, because that gives us the assurance that, okay, this company is taking security serious. Here's the issue with both of these reports. They have a lot of confidential information on them. See, if you were to scan my home network right now and then like assess my home network right now, it will give you my IP address, the things that are connected, my TV, all the other stuff. And I don't want everybody to have access to all that stuff. So guess what we do with this framework? They have SOC 3. SOC 3 is the report that gets shared to the public, right? To anyone else who want to know if we're taking security serious, we give them SOC 3. It's a general report. It contains significantly less detailed, meaning we remove all the critical stuff, all the confidential things. We remove them from the report, and then we share this to any company that will ask us, hey, are you guys taking security serious? Yeah, here is a proof. But the proof we give to them is the SOC 3. And that SOC 3 is not going to have all the confidential things. We'll remove all of that. So it's less information. So the main difference between SOC 2 and SOC 3 is a general use report, right? So SOC 2 is restricted to use report, meaning it's used internal. It's used internal the organization. And the SOC 3, it's shared with the public, with anyone who wants to know if we're taking security serious. And it has less details, less information on it.
Question. So does the SOC 3 at least tell, so say my company wants to do business with another company, we request a SOC 2 certification or SOC 3 certification. Does it let us know if they have like type 2 certification without the confidential information? Because how will we know if they've been assessed for an extended amount of time, or if it's just a quick, yeah, you guys have this in place and that's it?
Right. So the organization that hold them accountable is not them. It's the people from the AICPA. So these are the ones that would tell you, hey, look, we did our job. These people are legit.
Okay.
Right? The report doesn't come from them. It comes from these guys.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like that certification earlier. One time, true story. One time, I was working when I was working at Trenton Health Team. We want to have an email, and we're almost done, guys. So I can give you a first break. I know you've been sitting for a while. We wanted to do a DLP. This is the data loss prevention for our email. We were doing HIPAA, and we wanted our nurses to start encrypting emails when they send confidential information. So we start shopping around and try to find some vendor that can assist us in that regard. The thing that was on our list was the SOC 2 report. We want to make sure that they have that. We went up going with the Zix. Zix was the company that we went with. And we deployed these guys. We were working with them for a few years, and it looks like somebody bought them. But they were really good. They were really good to encrypting emails before those emails get sent. They were giving us end-to-end encryption. It was fantastic. But before we even consider them, we asked them to give us their SOC 2 report. We review it with their security team. They told us what they did. And we double-checked with the report that was given to us by that organization. We believe them. We did business with them. There was another company, pretty good company, that was providing the same services. They didn't have the report, the SOC 2 report. We didn't go with them. And they were cheaper compared to Zix. All right, a few more things. And then you have your benchmarks and your security guides. These are the CIS. And I did show you this earlier. The top 20, the top 18 now. Right? These are like nice things to do. CIS, the CIS security controls, nice things to do. CIS do have risk assessment methods. They even have software that they use for this kind of stuff. So check them out. But, once you're looking at getting hired, they might ask you a few things from the CIS. This class does not focus on that, but I will highly encourage you to take a look at the CIS, those top 18. Click on one of those things and look at, what they have in there. I told you 1 and 2, it's inventory of your hardware, inventory of your software. The third one is like data, knowing how the data flow from point A to point Z. Most companies, when they get hacked, they don't even know what device talks to what. And that's like number 3 on that list, understanding how the conversation flow from one machine to another, like what is communicating with what. All that, it's within the CIS. Don't have to do it, but nice thing to do. Operating system, network platforms, vendor-specific guides, all these things are great. Okay, guys, once you start working or as you work, if your product is a Splunk, there's nobody who knows how to secure Splunk better than them. So go to their website, grab their guides, and then follow their guides. Right? It's as simple as that. Okay. CIS benchmarks. So the CIS, the same company, the Center for Internet Security, they have benchmarks. These are a bunch of documents that you can download that can help you like lock down something or secure something. Right? They usually have those benchmarks for popular products like operating systems, AWS, and the like. The Department of Defense also have the Cyber Exchange, and the NIST also have this National Checklist Program, where it's basically a checklist where they say, have you did this, have you did this, have you did this. These are like benchmarks, things that are nice to do, and if you do them, you win. And then we have these application servers and application server, and then web server applications. I will come back to this, hold on to this, But one of the biggest things to talk about once we get there is going to be OWASP. OWASP is the Open Web Application Security Project, is a company that's nonprofit that dedicated its entire mission to protecting web applications. So they have this thing known as a top 10. The top 10 vulnerabilities, like web application vulnerabilities. We're going to take a look at those, especially once we get to chapter, I believe, 15. So it's going to be sometime next week. And then a few other things, regulations, standards, and legislations. These are laws. These are not nice to do. These are a must do. You have to do this. If you don't do this, you could get in trouble. The first one is HIPAA. HIPAA is a given. This is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It was established back, long time ago. It's designed to protect your health care information. We call that PHI. I'll come back to this in chapter 14. This is the protected healthcare information. Basically, it's any information that identify your health. Oh, I'm diabetic. That's PHI. It has to be protected. If the hospital lose your data, they're in big trouble with HIPAA. I managed the HIPAA for about 2 years. And then when I took on the job, I thought I was making more money, which they did put a little raise on my money. But then I quickly learned that you can be held personally accountable. I didn't know that when I took the job. I was the information security officer. I'm like, ooh, that's a good title and then, good money. And then when as soon as I learned about, what, if we lose these patients' data, yeah, you might go to jail. I said, thank you, right? I am good. I'll find another job. That was the reason why I left that job. So HIPAA. Another one we have, it's CCPA. CCPA is the California Consumer Privacy Act. This is just like that 27701 for privacy, right? So privacy goes in and talk about, okay, company, you're collecting this data, you need to protect it. Not only you need to protect it, but you also need to let people know why you're collecting this data and what you're going to use their data for. If you've ever been on a website and they have cookies where it pops up and says, hey, agree before you use this website. That's all because these laws, they demand them to do that. Nobody reads that stuff, but what that stuff says is like, here is what we're tracking, here is what we're collecting from you, and if you don't agree with this, please don't use our website. But what's funny is even if you reject that, you will still use the site. So I don't know how effective that is. Just very annoying. But California, because that's where the Google, the Facebook, all these companies are based in California, they had their own Privacy Act. I wish they could have this nationwide. It's like, why just California, right? But a bunch of states in the US, they have their little own version of a CCPA. But CCPA is the most common one we have in the US. FISMA, for those who works with the government. FISMA is the Federal Information Security Management, required for federal agencies to develop, document, implement information security programs, and protect them. Basically, if you are a company, it could be a private sector, if you're going to be working with the US government, you have to follow what FISMA says. By the bone. Everything FISMA says you have to follow. If you don't, you might not, you would definitely not get the contract, and folks might get in trouble with that too. The Patriot Act, the Computer Security Act, they changed this to Patriot Act in 2021, when Osama bin Laden happened. And oh my God, it literally, Americans, we gave up a lot of our rights to the government, to the big brother, because what this law says, even if you touch somebody's computer without their permission, you could be held accountable. So it's intended to improve the security and privacy of sensitive information in federal computers. And it's not just that. With the Patriot Act, they revise this, start spying and all the other stuff. Have you guys heard about Edward Snowden? Who's you ever have heard about Edward Snowden?
The NSA guy, the American guy that right now he is refugee in Russia or something.
Exactly. The Snowden guy, the NSA guy. He called himself a whistleblower. This gentleman. He is the one who exposed a program that got created because of the law. And the program that gave too much rights to the government to basically spying on everybody. And they have a really good movie. I always recommend the movie. Actually, I recommend the documentary. I just put, see, they have it down on Netflix. They do have this on Netflix, so check it out.
So you mean they took the C out of our CIA?
They sure did. They sure did. Yeah, no, so they that law gave them too much power to basically be able to spying on everybody and basically do whatever they want, and they sure did. So the guy find that out, 2011, I believe, he exposed them. 11, I can't remember now. He exposed them. He had to, flee the country, otherwise they would have extortion him or, put him in jail or something. Or killed him. Then you have your SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This one and the LGBA, they both are designed to prevent companies from fraudulently reporting their finances. So it's a federal law that establishes auditing and financing regulations for public companies. And these came out because of, what's that guy's name? Berman Mac, something like that. He cooked the books. He was reporting fraudulent information. And these laws are literally here to hold banks, financial institutions accountable. So if you work cybersecurity for finances, you might interact with those quite a bit. If you work in healthcare, you will definitely interact with HIPAA. You work with the government, you will deal with FISMA. If you work in the private sector, you will deal with some of the things we talked about, but as well as this right here. These two, and these are the last ones. So we have a GDPR, and then we have a PCI DSS. I've mentioned about this already. GDPR, it's EU. It's European Union standards for data privacy. Keyword here is privacy. Right, it's going in, it's asking companies, how are you handling European customers' personal information? Yes, you're collecting this information, but how are you handling them? Right, and it's holding companies accountable, and it's asking companies to report to customers, or report to regular individuals what they're collecting. What do they use with the data that they're collecting, and everything in between. In fact, under GDPR, you can tell companies to forget about you. You see, like we are on Google, you can literally call Google, say, hey, Google, delete everything you know about me. And they are required by the law to do exactly just that. There are a few things you need to know about this one. This will be on that exam, absolutely. One, it's an international law. See, although they said it's EU, it's for European Union citizens, but it doesn't matter the company. If the company is an American company, as long as they do business with EU citizens, they have to obey GDPR. Doesn't matter if it's an African company, it's an Australian company, they have to do what GDPR says. And to not complying with the GDPR, it cost companies a lot of money, a lot. If I can show you a few examples here. Go here quickly, guys, we're done. Take questions and then let you go on your first break. For example, if you look at Google, GDPR, let's start with Facebook. Because the Facebook one just happened. Look at that. Facebook is required to pay $1.3 billion. Or what about Amazon? 800 million, right? Almost 900 million that they had to pay. Oh, what about Uber? 1 million. Uber actually have been fined a couple of times. 4 million. million. Right? What about Google? Yeah, you just put a company name there, and they have become a victim of GDPR. Guys, this is good news for us. More jobs. Right? Recently, Uber got hacked. And then the next day they come back and they open 80 cybersecurity jobs. Hey, like imagine that. They get hacked today, and then tomorrow they open 80 cybersecurity jobs. And these are not regular jobs. These are jobs where people make like $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year, like high-paying jobs. So the cybersecurity problem is not going away. These are just companies. Imagine countries, right? The problem is here to stay. So that's GDPR. GDPR goes in and says, you got to do your job, Mr. Uber. You got to protect these these people's data. If you don't, we're coming for you. So there's two wording within GDPR that you need to be aware of. One is a data processor, another one is a data controller. A data processor is a person who processes the data on the behalf of the data controller. So data processor are the worker bees. The worker bees. Some people call these people custodian. Some documents call these people custodian, which could mean you, the security guy, process the data or secure the data on the behalf of the data controller. The data controller is the company or the director, I say the company, but the department and or the director of that department. They determine the purpose of that data. Right? They determine the purpose of the data, meaning, hey, we in sales, these are the kind of personal data we're collecting in sales. And this is the purpose we collect this data. So these are the words. If you see these on that exam, start thinking about GDPR. Last but not least is PCI DSS. I didn't mention about this one as well. So this is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI DSS. Very, very important. And a little background on a PCI. Early, like late 1990s, in like 98, 99, Visa, MasterCards, they all had their own way of dealing with the merchants, meaning dealing with these companies who sell stuff. So as long as you accept the credit cards, they have their own way of you keeping things secure. And they find out there was a lot of similarities and that they were asking you too much for these businesses to comply with. Because if you accept MasterCard, you have to do this way. If you accept Visa, you have to do it this way. So in 2006, they started in 2004, but in 2006 is when they launched. They got together and formed a compliance body, right? It's called PCC, Payment Card Council, something like that. They formed the council to guide everybody who accept credit cards. And the council came up with this neat thing known as a PCI DSS. So anyone, any business that accept credit cards, debit card, have to comply with PCI DSS. They have to comply with PCI DSS. And it doesn't matter if your business is an online business, it's an e-commerce, you have to comply with PCI DSS. It doesn't matter if this is an African business in Nigeria, Ghana, you have to comply with PCI DSS. So this is actually a really good career to get in because, I mean, can you even see businesses not accepting credit cards? At least not in a feasible future, right? This is here to stay. So You can become a PCI QSA. And then basically you're assessing organization to see if they are complying with PCI DSS. When Target got breached, 2014, when Target got breached, the story I was telling you about, PCI came after them. Like, oh, Mr. Target, what went wrong? Right? What did you do wrong? And they give them a big fine. And then these guys, they can take they can take away the ability for businesses to accept credit cards. Remember, there's no business that can survive without the ability to accept money, right? So on that exam, if you see anything that says credit card, PCI, all day, every day. If you see anything that says privacy, if they're talking about European Union, start thinking about GDPR, right? Privacy, like how do you handle the data? Or are you telling these people what you do with the data that you're collecting on them? That's all GDPR. Okay. If you see anything that goes in and starts saying, hey, we want to make sure if the organization it's taking security serious, that's going to be SOC 2 assessment if it's a US company. If it's an international company, that's going to be the ISO 27001. Specifically the certification. They might not have the certification in there, but if it says the ISO 27001, that still does it. All right, questions?
Not a technical question, but I'm just curious. Where does that money go? If they're collecting billions of dollars, who do victims get that money, or where does that go?
That's $1 million question. Once you find out, you let me know. Nobody really does. I had the same question. Nobody does. It's like what happened with Equifax. Let me bring it up. Equifax, the credit agency, right, got hacked in 2017. They got breached. Americans in America, over 140 some, where was it? Right here. 147 American records got stolen. The government came after Equifax. Equifax paid billions, but nobody saw any penny. And this attack was so huge that almost everybody with the credit card got affected. Because Equifax is that, like you can't buy a car, a house in the US without Equifax to give you that rating.
Yeah, I got a letter behind that. All they offer was like some free service to monitor your credit or lock it down or something like that, but no money.
No money. Yeah. It's all political. Okay, so let me check your understanding. One of you will read the question. Don't read the answers, just read the question. And then all of you can chime in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and tell us what the answer is. Right. And if you guys get it wrong, I will explain it. Or if there's any answer that's not clear to you, please let me know, then I will chime in.
A company security team received a notice of a critical vulnerability affecting a high-profile device within the web infrastructure. The vendor patch was just made available online, but has not yet been regression tested in development environments. In the interim, firewall rules were implemented to reduce the access to the interface affected by the vulnerability. Which of the following controls does this scenario describe?
I'll go compensating.
Okay. think I heard somebody say something. Guys, if you're in a place where you can't talk, like Joseph, please put your answers in the chat. I want to make sure everybody participate in this. Okay, got another B. Got a few B's coming in. Daniel, if you're saying something, we can't hear you.
I think it's B2.
Another B from Natalie. Another B from Sam. Okay, well, B better be right, right? And B it is. All right, Eric, you want to take like a few seconds? Tell us why you went with B first.
Yeah, it's simple. Just because it said in the interim, so it's basically like a temporary fix. So they compensated because they didn't have the permanent fix.
Everybody agrees?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic. You guys are awesome. Next question.
Following types of control is a turn cell, turn star. I go with physical.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Physical.
Turn tiles are physicals.
Physical.
Physical.
What's a turtle means? Wait, what's a turtle means?
Oh, what is a turn tile? Who can tell us?
Like when you're going into something and you push the little metal bar, like in New York, they have subways, or if you go to like an event at like a
Oh,
stadium.
okay. I mean, like something that you can, yeah, physical. I understand that.
Yeah.
Like when you scan the card and then it goes through.
Right, definitely. Good job. Turn tile. And that's a great example, Eric, at the airport. Next.
An organization is repairing the damage after an accident. Which of the following controls is being implemented?
I go with A, detective.
Okay, we got C, we got A coming in.
Corrected.
Got
Corrected.
Got corrective.
Yeah, Natalie.
I agree. C, corrected.
Oh, sorry, I can change. I go
C.
with
I go with C.
Okay. All right. Good job. All right, Sam, I think you went first. You want to tell us why?
Yeah, I just saw repairing the damage.
Yeah, after the
I
incident.
kind of gave it away.
Incident, yeah.
Yeah. Next question. One of you can read.
Okay, I'm going with it. A social media company based in North America is looking to expand into a new global market and needs to maintain a compliance with the international standard. With which of the following is the company's data protection officer most likely concerned? Go with C.
Okay, got a C coming in.
B.
Got a B coming in. Got a few C coming in, a few B's start popping up.
I'm gonna go B as well.
Another B coming in. And B it is. Natalie, why B?
Oh my God. I chose B because this is global. It's not only American, it's something that is a company or something that is going outside the country. So I think the ISO 27001 is the one that does that.
Fantastic. Job well done. International, start thinking about ISO. Good job. Next.
Okay, Professor, can you come back? Why it's not GDPR? GDPR is not?
Right. So GDPR is for privacy. Privacy. Now let's look at the question. All right, media company based in North America looking to expand into new global markets and needs to maintain compliance with international standards. What kind of international standards are we talking about? ISO standards. It's in the name. It's an international standard. Now, so the following is the company's data protection officer. DPO must be concerned with ISO. Why can he must be concerned with this? Well, one, it's because if he don't become 27001 certified, he might not be trusted as a secure organization. So some other people might not do business with them. Now, Osman, that's a great question. And here's another thing I want to make sure I point out for these CompTIA questions. If you were to say C, it's not like you're wrong. I mean, are we also concerned about GDPR? We are absolutely concerned about GDPR because we're becoming international now. We might have customers in the European Union and EU. But here is the tricky part about these CompTIA questions, is that the most concern, right? Is that the first thing we should be concerned with? Then the answer is no. EU is not the only international country. So keep an eye on these most and the best. Then you will see them in the capital. They will be capitalized. Okay.
Yeah, because I almost say C. Because I saw the data protection and I was like, the data, but I did not see the privacy in. So I picked those little words that I can remember.
Yeah, that was just a title, data professional officer, just the title of a person who works at that company. Next question, guys.
An annual information security assessment has revealed that several IS level configurations are not in compliance due to outdated hardening standard the company is using. Which of the following would be best to use, update, and reconfigure the OS level security configurations?
I want to go A.
Okay. It's Eric. Oh, some of you are in the chat. So Abdul says A.
I go with A.
Okay, another A.
I don't know. Really, I don't know on this one. I can't pick up anything.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
I think it's A2.
Okay. Another A. So A better be right. Oops. And A it is. Eric, why A?
Because I think it's the only one that deals with the OS security configurations, the OS level security configurations. So
Correct.
that's why I picked it.
Absolutely correct. And I didn't show these to you, but run there quickly. If we go to CIS benchmarks
Yep.
right here, this is what they're talking about. Operating system, where's an OS? It's an operating system, something like Linux, Windows, Mac. Those are OS. So what do you do when you want to secure those things? Obviously, visiting their site and grabbing their documentation, that's the best thing to do. But what if you can use CIS? For example, let's say we want to secure Linux. We come right here, we grab one of these. They obviously might want me to sign in. This is the benchmark. It's a PDF, a document that goes in and tells us, here is what you need to do to make sure your Linux is compliant, your Linux is up to date, your Linux is secure. Benchmarks. You don't have to do them. This is not a law. It's not a rule. You don't have to, but they will keep your environment secure. Okay. Next.
An organization implemented a process that compares the settings currently figured on system against secure configuration guidelines in order to identify any gaps. Which of the following control types has the organization implemented?
All right, Abdul says A and C. Which one, Abdul? Talk to me. C. Okay.
I'm gonna go D.
Another D. Another C coming in. Another C coming in. And D it is. All right, I want to hear both of you. I want to hear somebody who says C. I want to hear from somebody who says D. What was running in your brain? I'm curious. Why C? Let's start with that. And Abdul, you want to tell us why you went with C first? You unmute.
Because I saw the kind of like trying to identify the gaps to probably fill in those gaps before those things happen. That was what I was thinking before and it's happened.
Okay, before they happen. So identify those gaps before they happen. I see. And Eric, why you went with D?
It's funny, but it's pretty much the same thing like he just said, because they're identifying the gaps, so they're detecting they're looking to create guidelines in order to identify any gaps. So and the fact that they're also let's see, what word did I see that caught my attention as well? Compares. That was the one. Compares. That caught my attention as well. That they've compared one setting to a system configuration, and they detected that they've identified.
Yeah. Look, guys, and this is the other thing about this CompTIA question. You got to look at the words. There are keywords that once you see them, they're like where the question stands. So here they're talking about identify any gaps. When you're identifying stuff, you're not really preventing anything. You're not implementing anything to prevent it from happening. You're just identifying. It's like implementing a CCTV camera. A CCTV camera is just right there to detect stuff. Fantastic. Next question.
After a recent external audit, after a recent external audit, the compliance team provided a list of several non-compliant in-scope hosts that were not encrypting cardholders' data at rest. Which of the following compliance frameworks would address the compliance team's greatest concern?
Okay, we got A comes in. The greatest concerns.
Yeah, I agree. A.
Yeah.
A.
Say A. Got A. All right, Mr. A. Better be right. And the A it is. Right. Daniel, you want to tell us why A?
Well, as you mentioned when you was talking about it, when specifically you talk about credit card holder,
Absolutely. You see credit card, it doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit organization, an e-commerce company, they got to comply with the PCI DSS. This is the only.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not enforced by any government, but it's enforced by the 4-5 major credit card brands. So Visa, MasterCard, they might take away the ability for you to accept credit cards. But they might charge you higher fees as you're accepting credit card if you're not complying with PCI DSS. Next.
A company is auditing the manner in which its European customers' personal information is handled. Which of the following should the company consult?
Abdul, you want to fix your microphone for us? We can barely hear you.
Sorry. A company is auditing the manner in which its European customers' personal information is handled. Which of the following should the company consult? GDPR.
Okay.
That's A.
Agree.
Yes, that's A.
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 Love it. Osman, why A?
I was the first one.
You were? All right, let's go with Osman. You've given an explanation.
Okay.
Yeah, you said that GDPR is like European Union's standard to protecting customers from the unorganizations, those who like they collect their credit card information. So they make sure that like their partners are not hacked or like anything else. So they ask the organization to make sure that like they're handling it in the right way.
Love it. Love it. And Sam, do you have a different explanation for us?
Oh, not really.
Okay.
It's so European. I was like, ding, ding, ding. Let me read everything else, but keep that in mind.
European. Love it. Keywords. Next question.
Which of the
go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead.
Which of the following is assured when a user signs an email using a private key? I would say
A.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that one. Hey,
QA coming in. This was the pop quiz, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I try to trick
Yeah,
you.
I think so too.
Yeah, trying to see if you will catch that one. Next.
Which of the following controls types is focused primarily on reducing risk before an accident occurs? Preventive,
Okay.
yep, agreed.
Before the accident occurs, preventive. Good job. Yeah, I don't think I need an explanation for that one. You guys master those ones. Fantastic. All right, any questions for me?